Day 2 of the Candidates Tournament in Yekaterinburg, Russia. 8 of the top gladiators in the world were back to do battle in the race to decide a challenger for the World Championship title. Pre-tournament favorite Fabiano Caruana dismantled the Russian Kirill Alexenko, while the Frenchman Maxime Vachier-Lagrave continued the suffering of Ding Liren, whose 2 losses in a row have him now mired in last place. There's a 4-way tie for first, with the players hungry for more wins. Round 3 of exciting action coming up next.
On your screen is the Hyatt Regency in Yekaterinburg, where we see the 2020 candidates. What an exciting tournament here in Russia. I mean, it's that battle to determine the challenger to Magnus Carlsen, and the entire chess world has its eyes on it. Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez here with Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan.
Namaste, Alejandro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our coverage of what has been a most thrilling tournament that's lived up to its billing and then some. Oh, games that are just so full of content. Let's just rush right in. Alejandro, what are the standings?
Standings as it is. 4 people tied for first place. That's half the tournament. Fabiano Caruana and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave both won their games yesterday to reach that score. Meanwhile, Jan Nepomniachtchi drew against Alexander Grischuk, and Wang Hao dropped half a point, quite honestly, by not defeating Anish Giri from a winning position to also reach 1.5. 50% for Alexander Grischuk, a little bit of an unusual situation in which only one person has 50%. Kirill Alexenko and Anish Giri both with half a point. And the other big surprise, Ding Liren, one of the pre-tournament favorites, with a big goose egg there, 0 points out of 2. Nobody saw that coming.
That's absolutely stunning. And our format?
The format of the tournament is a double round robin. That's 14 rounds for you to ensure that every player gets an equal amount of whites and blacks. If you're a classical fan, this is your tournament. 100 minutes for the first 40 moves, 50 minutes for the next 20. Once you reach move 60, you get another 15 minutes. And then there's a 30-second move per move throughout. No draw offers before Black's 40th, and €500,000 prize fund for the event. But let's be honest, only one real winner of the event. The others, well, they're just going home with a little bit of cash and a big disappointment.
And
but
our schedule.
The schedule, we have a round today, and that's going to be the 3rd in a row, and then a break day. And get used to that schedule because it's going to be 3 games and a break day, 3 games and a break day.
Very comfortable schedule, Alejandro.
Absolutely. Lets the players rest, and it's a long, long event. But enough of this. We have breaking news. Maurice Ashley, what is up?
What is up? Well, it's breaking news indeed. You saw such exciting games so far in the first 2 rounds. This round has an incredible game between the 2 big dogs of the tournament, pre-tournament favorites, Ding Liren and Fabiano Caruana. And man, we are seeing some of the best prep we've seen in years coming from Fabulous Fabi in this position here. He played the move E5. This is supposed to be some solid Slav. Well, throw that out the window as he sacrificed a pawn. There are 2 captures here. Either one is going to give compensation for black. Knight takes E5 looked like the most solid one, but bishop to C2, deflecting the queen. Of course, if you capture it, then suddenly queen takes D4 with check is a natural fork, winning the knight on E5. So queen D2, C5, D5, bishop to B3. Now pressuring the pawn after E4, rook D8, hitting the knight, queen F4, and another pawn sacrifice with the move C4. This one, with the threat of bishop to d6, force white to play knight takes c4, and calm development, down 2 pawns, knight f8, repositioning his knight, knight g6, queen f5, and now he did some thinking here before capture, and queen c7, hitting the bishop back to e2, not giving white a chance to breathe. Every move, it looks like, is now with tempo. Bishop takes on c5, and he's been sitting for a while in this position, a crazy one, because the natural capture queen c5 looks all the world like he should do it, but there's a rook e5 move that looks even more intriguing. An absolutely crazy, crazy game. Ding Liren must be wondering, why me? Why is the target on my back? But in the meantime, his countryman Wang Hao is playing extremely well, and he's the 7th seed from the competition. And you might think, well, 7th seed, not really that famous, but indeed, his score against the field shows that he absolutely belongs against his countryman Ding Liren. He's 5-7, not bad. Against Giri, 3-1. Grishchuk, 2-1. You see a slight deficit against both Nepo and Vachier-Lagrave, but what's this? 5-0 against Fabiano Caruana? Well, some of that was from the younger days, but nevertheless, we are talking about Fabulous Fabi. This player is indeed very dangerous, as you saw from round 1 when he defeated Ding Liren in great style. Round 2, he can say, man, I should have gotten that game too against Anish Giri. But no, nothing to worry about. He's still at +1, tied for first, with a great chance indeed to keep on and maybe even win the tournament. I think this would be a shocker if he was the one that came out of this. Nobody would have put the money on him. But in the meantime, we have a long way to go and exciting games to start round 3.
Well, thank you, Maurice. I mean, a game like that. Is anybody else playing in the tournament, Alejandro?
Apparently there are other players. Let's take a look at the pairings for round 3.
Exactly.
Of course, the game that is going to keep us thrilled is Ding Liren against Fabiano Caruana. But there are no boring games today. Anish Giri is fighting against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Alexander Grishchuk is currently playing Wang Hao in a kind of a weird, symmetrical French Petrov. Kirill Alexenko, meanwhile, is in a complicated, also French, against Jan Nepomniachtchi. And look at that unusual scenario. Every single leader with the black pieces, some of them fighting for the win. Fabiano with his prep, Alexenko being the lower rated player. I saw Jan playing something that's not very usual of his repertoire, more of a Najdorf player.
Right.
Is Nepo. He said, I don't want to run into Kirill's prep. Let's play a French and fight it out.
Exactly. Well, I mean, again, you're right. There are 4 exciting games, but let's just drill down a little bit further into this.
We got it.
Number 1 versus number 2 matchup. And whenever the number 1's and number 2 matchup, I don't care what sport it is. I mean, that's where the attention lays. And sometimes, unfortunately, in the world of chess, when number 1 plays number 2, it's a boring affair.
Yeah.
Not today, Alejandro. I mean, just from the get-go, this move E5, I mean, what can you say about the Slav? I mean, it's one of the oldest, most established defenses in the world, and nobody, I mean, in generations of players have come up with this novel move, E6, E5.
C5,
fantastic.
Fantastic. C5 is a normal continuation in this position.
Right. That's the theory.
That's the theory, and it's been played. There's a bunch of 2,700 games here.
Right.
Supposed to be a little bit better for white.
Okay.
But nothing special.
Right.
And probably what Ding Liren expected.
Of course.
E5 comes like a thunder.
Now, put yourself in Ding Liren's shoes. You're -2. The tournament's gone off, like as bad as it could possibly get. And suddenly you're getting hit again with this move E5. And you got to be saying to yourself, somebody give me a break here. I mean,
there are no breaks
on
here. And the thing is, we're a little harsh when we say this, but it's not so far from the truth. There will be 1 winner and 7 losers.
Exactly.
And Ding Liren doesn't want to be a loser. He wants to win.
Of course.
To win, he needs to start scoring points.
Yeah.
And this is a great chance for him.
He's white.
He's white. He's against Fabi, which means that he will shorten that distance against one of the leaders.
Right.
He needs to win.
Exactly. Pull him back.
Right. At this point, you look at the position.
Right.
And you think, knight takes E5. Okay, well, obviously my opponent's very well prepared. Bishop C2 comes on the board. And at this point, I think somebody in a different tournament situation, maybe somebody more cautious, just takes the bishop.
And just says,
and
okay,
just says,
nice prep. I'm going to go home.
I'm going to go home. Let's just make some kind of draw. I'll give you your pawn back.
Right.
I'll solidify my king.
But no, the tournament situation demands that I have to play on.
Absolutely.
And Ding Liren does.
Queen D2? Oh, C5.
Okay, now I don't want to take that.
No, definitely not.
So
D5 looks kind of forced.
And then this bishop drops back. It hits the pawn on D5.
Got to defend that guy.
Now suddenly you hit me with rook E8. Now I start to worry about things like rook takes E4.
Absolutely.
If my knight moves.
So again, Queen F4 does look forced to me.
Right.
And C4.
What?
Bam, played instantly by Fabi. Obviously still in his prep. I was
Bishop
really
d6 is a huge threat.
It forces again Ding Liren's hand.
Nothing to be done.
Knight takes c4, knight bd7.
Like, what's that? That nice, quiet move? You just sacrificed 2 pawns.
Modern chess. This is great understanding. I think the engines of old had a lot of problems understanding this kind of sacrifices.
Right.
They saw 2 pawns, central pawns,
No
no direct
checkmate.
threats, no checkmate. Why? Yeah, just better for white.
Yeah,
and even modern chess engines, when they're not very strong, you're using your online engine or you're using your laptop that's running Windows on the Mac boot camp. You know, it's probably giving whites winning.
Right.
But we have very strong engines now. The Leela, even the new Stockfishes, they drill much deeper.
Okay.
They understand that compensation here might not be in the next move, in the next couple of moves. They understand it's going to be a while before white develops.
Right, and he has. He plays bishop e3, kind of protecting his king on the dark squares. There was some vulnerabilities of bishop c5 check, so bishop e3.
Knight f8.
Another quiet little move. This move is a tickle because the white queen on f4 is a little bit boxed in, so bishop d4, making room for the queen.
Knight
now,
g6.
maybe this was asking too much, queen f5, because you can see the white queen getting a little bit into trouble here. Maybe it was time to withdraw. Queen d2. Queen d2 might walk into rook e4. I take it back. Queen c1.
Queen c1 was the weak engine recommendation. I don't know what Fabi had prepared against this.
Okay.
But certainly there was some plan. Because by this point, Fabi has blitzed out every move.
Exactly.
So,
and by the way, while Fabi's blitzing out every move, what's happening to Ding Liren's clock?
Well, tick-tock, tick-tock. Well, you can see it down to 15 minutes, Ding Liren.
Oh, I got to say, by the way, you said a weak engine recommendation. If I were Ding Liren, if I haven't seen this position, I don't want my queen on f5. I mean, I just don't want I'm not sitting there going, you know what, let me stick my queen in the guy's face. Like, I don't know, weak engine, whatever engine. I'm not putting my queen on f5. It just seems like maybe I should go home.
Right.
Like, we stole stuff. Let's go back and consolidate. Maybe white, maybe I have to ditch back a couple of pawns. I'm already thinking I'm giving you back a couple of pawns if I have to make a draw now because you're still blitzing out moves. But the idea of leaving the queen sitting right there to get hit again, that just seems scary. And, okay, the way the game transpired, it worked out, more or less worked out. I'm still not happy with the position for white because it's hard to develop the pieces, especially that rook on h1. But, man, what else would you, I mean, were you happy with a queen f5?
Well, let's find out who's going to be happy with the queen.
Bishop e2 play.
Bishop e2.
And then bishop c5, very, very logical move. You eliminate that powerful bishop from d4.
And expose the king on f2 as well.
I can't imagine a better move than bishop c5.
Agreed.
So he takes on c5, and Fabi starts thinking here, and this is kind of a key point.
Okay.
Because we do have more moves.
All right.
But rook e5 was the main alternative. He did end up taking the bishop with check.
Okay.
But rook e5 was certainly a very tempting alternative. Kicking out this queen, also gaining a lot of tempi. Here, for example, knight f4 also is a tempo.
Ooh.
So this was a very tempting continuation.
And that bishop is always hanging.
Yeah.
You know, it's at these moments I start thinking in terms of bailing out, right? Like where is where's the parachute?
As white, you mean?
Exactly.
Yes,
and I start thinking like, okay, I may end up having to give up my queen somewhere somehow. But by the way, I just want to point out one point is that the desirable, for example, one parachute move that I'd like to bail out with, you know,
give up the queen, bring
take
back
my
the
queen.
bishop.
I've got a rook, a bishop, a couple of pawns, but unfortunately, queen takes c5 is with a check. I lose the house. So okay, so rook e5, I agree. Very tempting move.
He took on c5.
Let's take a look at it a little bit because we're going to be able to look at the actual game continuation. But this is line with g5.
Whoa, g5. Okay. I got no choice.
And now queen c5 check.
Okay, I got a no choice.
And now the move knight on f6 takes on d5.
Ruh-roh. Holy smokes.
And after pawn takes, which is like, why are you giving away a piece?
Right.
Move queen e3.
Just posting up against the bishop and
Oh man.
And all of white's pieces are out the way. The queen's on h6, the rook's on h1, a rook on a1, and it's all about the black pieces, despite being down gobs of material. Actually, how much material? It's not even
it's
that
a
much.
couple of pawns and a piece.
It's one pawn and a piece.
One pawn and a piece.
Why
Okay.
is that not
And
that
a
much
bishop.
That's a
material?
lot of material.
And
Okay.
but in the meantime, you're being like pasted, killed. I doubled. You could treble on the E line. Your king's going nowhere. You're never developing anybody. What a line! Fabi would have had to seen all this to go
Amazing.
for it. This is an insane line.
This is alien chess.
This is
I mean,
unbelievable.
what kind of
Unbelievable
preparation
stuff.
are we talking about here? This is amazing stuff. He didn't do that, by the way.
He took on c5 with check.
He did make the obvious recapture, and by the way, obvious and strong. I mean, and what happened after that?
But it took him a while, though. Let's
Yeah.
be clear. It took him
Yeah.
a while. He didn't just say, I
King
play queen takes
F1.
c5. He spent some deep clock time before finally saying, you know what, I want to play that move, but it looks risky. Let me go for this.
Okay.
And he played the move h6.
What?
Now, that is a shocker.
H7, H6, saying you're 2 pawns up, but you don't have a good continuation. That's amazing.
That is amazing because the natural moves would be
E5.
attacking moves, rook e5, queen b4, moves that seem to pressure the position in some way. H6, making luft for the king because I might get mated on the back rank.
But also taking away
I was kidding. Of
G5.
course. I was kidding.
Yeah.
No, it's like a weird tempo loss. Why do you need to take away g5 when rook e5 would have easily covered that square?
I'm not entirely sure what the point of h6 is.
Don't look at me. I mean, you lie. I've been stunned from the get-go here. H7, H6. Holy.
The Indians
Okay.
definitely hate the move as well because it just seems
So
like it's
slow.
so slow given the situation. But you know, here's what I will say though is a plus for this move.
Okay.
Okay.
The plus for the move is if you don't have a reorganization plan as white, like exactly what is your next move?
Well, Dingler answered it very quickly. He put the
Yeah.
rook on d1.
He did.
Exactly.
Played a rook, he did. And
Which is very logical.
It defends d4.
I mean,
let's
all
note
of-
though, by the way,
Yep.
let's note the clock times. Let's just really stress the stress level that Ding Liren must be feeling right now. 15 minutes left on the clock to make 18 more moves
Wow.
in this position where you can't develop your pieces. Your rook is still in the corner. The guy has sacrificed a couple of pawns on you, and your queen might get trapped in some weird line.
And
You
your
don't want to
king's
play
not-
this. I mean, you just don't want to play. So you need easy moves. Think about this for a second in this sharp position. 15 minutes. Like, okay, he's got 15 minutes. We know as players, right, how fast the clock goes.
Right.
The clock, you're sitting there thinking, and 8 minutes went by. You're like, what just happened? And you start making quick moves. I would not be surprised if this game is decided by a blunder by white. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest because all Fabi needs to do now is play a couple of strange-looking moves, things that you have to think about. Little threat here, little threat there. Find the right way to pressure the position, and Ding Liren could go into a long tank. Long tank when you only have 15 minutes left is 5 minutes. And look at the lifetime score. Two, of course, we would expect this from two 2,800 players.
But the momentum
Six
is on
draws.
Ding Liren. It was 2-0 for Fabi.
Oh.
And then Ding Liren tied it 2-2, especially with a key victory in Norway and last year.
Right.
In the Armageddon/normal tournament.
Yes.
Ding Liren destroyed Fabi in the normal time control.
Wow.
Yeah, and I want to say it was in some kind of Slav or
Right.
Catalan type Slav position.
Well, again, 2019 was a fantastic year for Ding Liren.
And that's where it started, in Norway.
And that's where Ding Liren is perceived today as a favorite coming into this candidates tournament.
And this is absolutely bonkers.
I don't know even know
I
what
want to keep going because Rook D1.
Rook D1.
Maurice was saying something about creating threats and creating weird moves, and I'm trying to come up with a plan for black because, okay, I'm down 2 pawns and I actually have to do
course.
something. I have been yelled at in my ear of something ridiculous, which was A6, B5.
No, it's a very ridiculous idea. Computer suggestion. Also, Varuja Nakobian in the truck is looking at it as
A6
well.
and B5.
And
You want to open up the position that seems so slow.
No, but
It's not that slow.
Here's the thing.
It seems so slow.
It seems like you shouldn't be making pawn moves, but here's the thing. How are you going to actually break white's position?
Right.
The only way is, there are only two ways. Normally in chess, there are two main ways, right? Well, let's start with the first thing you do. One is you attack things until the person can't defend them.
Okay.
Right? You just keep attacking, pressure, pressure, pressure. Person's holding. You hold on tight. So now I can't break through. Well, what do? I have to sacrifice.
Something.
Or, well, I don't have to sacrifice. The next step is pawn breaks. You need a pawn break. Something, you push something and you crack the position open because the pawn structure is in your way. So you need a pawn break. A6, B5 is that kind of break. The only one, well, F5 is also in the position. My apologies. F5 in some future line is also there as a move, and we've seen it in previous variations. The other way is sacrifice a piece on those dumb pawns. So something, we've seen the knight takes D5 idea, something like knight E4, something to crack the position. So actually A6, B5 is just within one of those themes. What do? You play to open up the position some more. Now it looks very slow. The issue becomes, does white have 2 or 3 moves that fixes his position in the meantime? And that's the main question. Can you guys come up with an answer to A6? Does he have a G3, King G2, Rook HE1? Hey, I'm well organized while you're busy doing that move.
There's no Rook E5.
There is no Rook E5?
No.
Why?
Because it doesn't belong with the position. I don't know.
I was just trying to
I got
chase-
yelled at in my ear that A6, B5 was the idea, but there's no Rook E5 as part of that plan.
Okay, I was trying to get in knight F. And the other sacrifice, of course, is knight takes C3. So you could play something along the lines of Queen B4, Rook D2, Rook C8.
Yeah, and sack on C3.
And sack on C3.
That is.
But I'm sitting here saying, that's why the move H7, H6 is so darn confounding.
Oh, yes.
You sit there and
Very
go,
slow.
you want to be cracking that whip with, great attacking moves. And let's face it, this is phenomenal preparation. So I've got to figure that
He's played
H6
Queen B6, I've been told.
is all part of Fabi's preparation. By the way, after you play the move Queen B6, there's no A6, B5.
No,
so
that's out the window.
By the way,
out the window.
Let's get back to Petrosian's maxim that's really important in this position.
Yeah.
Really important. When you sacrifice material for compensation, play like you sacrifice material for compensation.
Right.
Don't play like you lost the material.
Right.
Oh man, I'm down 2 pawns. I need to get it back. How do I get it back? Queen B6, the intent of Queen B6 is not simply to get back the pawn on B2.
No,
The point is to try to erode white's position. That one pawn is holding the knight together, and if that goes and the A4 pawn is hanging, suddenly you got 2 passed pawns. He's not just, I got to get the material back. So you have to recognize it from an attitude standpoint. A6 is even more so playing like you sacked. Like, I sacrifice, no big deal. I'm not going to have that attitude. So it's very important that you realize when you sacrifice. You didn't blunder the 2 pawns, and you need to get it back. You sacrifice those pawns. So that's why we might be a little worried about a move like Queen B6. The other thing I don't like about Queen B6 is it's so concrete that my opponent knows exactly what to do on the next move.
Well, Rook
And he's
D2
done it.
already
He's
played.
played
And he
Rook
played it,
D2.
like boom.
You've got to
Second.
defend the pawn on B2.
Got to defend the pawn, Rook D2. No thought for Ding Liren. You make an attacking move, I defend. So A6 had that very unclear motive about it. Well, B5 may come or not because the square is guarded more than twice.
But actually,
But we do have Queen E3.
you guys are mentioning A6, B5 is not an idea, but Queen E3, Rook C2, A6 looks so much stronger. Because
well,
now
the
there's
queen
no
is
rook,
posted up on
and
E3.
there's no rook on the first.
Okay,
So once I play B5, you can't really take on B5.
Right. So you were talking about Maurice, disguising your attacking moves and not being so, straightforward.
Queen E3 on the board.
But I don't know. Queen B6, Queen E3.
compelling.
Maybe it's force.
And
good.
I don't have an engine, but that looks pretty compelling to me.
It looks really strong, and
Well, those
we're
are
doing
also
good tempo.
those are also the threats that we want to see Black
Exactly.
play, right?
Black
Our
needs-
intuition says Black should be making threats.
Exactly.
And even now, you mentioned A6, right?
After
A6
the
B5.
move Rook C2.
Let's be clear. You mentioned A6 B5, all right? And
Rook
now Rook C2. All this is
By the way, Ding Liren's got very little time, so he's
just making the moves he has to play.
Yeah, sorry, go on,
But
Maurice.
let's not analyze retroactively, right?
Okay.
We're saying, oh yeah, now A6 B5 looks really strong. We didn't see A6 in the first place.
No.
Okay, we can't pretend that we saw this move in advance. We see Queen B6, we see Queen to E3. We might be looking for another piece move right now.
Exactly.
What other threats do we have? It's only because the A6 move has been pointed out to us that we realize, hey, that plan is in the position. That looks pretty darn good. And so this maneuver with queen b6, queen e3 strengthens the idea of a6, b5. So that kind of bias is typical in the thinking of, all humans have. But will he find a6? We know a6 is on the board. The weird idea. Will he find a6? And is that why he played queen c5 to e3?
But what else? Because you were making some moves, but it helped me so much. When I look at the queen on f5, it wants to come back. It wants to go to f2. Once the queen reaches f2, I think black resigns.
Right. Queen h3, queen g3, queen f2.
Right.
Any queen trade, 2 pawns up, resigns.
Right. So anything that gets the queen back, I kind of dislike for black.
Okay.
There's a rook e5, queen h3, queen g3, queen f2. It just seems very bad to me. For example, rook e5, queen h3, rook g5. Trying to cut that idea.
Yeah, I was trying to. I was playing around with the. In view of queen g3, I thought, okay, let's try rook g5.
But again, you're helping me, right? g3.
Yeah, that's
queen g2, queen f2. I'm killing my own pieces, I feel.
Well, in one way you are. You definitely, the knight on g6 is crying. But I was thinking, am I weakening f3? And yes, I have. But can I attack it? Maybe not. So, okay.
I'm trying to find an alternative.
Please.
So,
Maurice, back to, you're going to switch on us now. There are other games going on?
I think so. I saw one off in the distance. Yes.
Wow.
No, there are other games as well, and a very exciting moment in this one. One of the leaders in the event, Jan Nepomniachtchi, playing against the bottom-seeded player in the tournament, Kirill Alexenko. But we know bottom seeds can be dangerous. Knight back to e7 after bishop d3, bishop d2 guarding his pawn, and knight c6, hitting the rook, saying, move it out of there. No. I refuse. You can have my rook. Take it, please. Ooh. Knight takes on b4, a takes b4, straightening out the pawn structure. This bishop on a4, not looking that great at the moment. Queen c7, and now rook to e1, and we have this. What can we say? Very interesting position as well. If we weren't so transfixed by the big dogs, numbers 2 and 3 in the world playing, we'd be thinking, whoa, what's this about? An interesting exchange, sacrifice. The knight will end up on d4. This bishop doesn't look that great. f4, f5 with ideas. Who do you like in this position?
That was an inspired exchange sacrifice. I love white.
I totally love white.
I thought it was just resignable for black until I realized they're actually up in exchange.
And up in exchange.
So
that bishop on a4 is
so
offside.
bad.
Yeah,
wow.
knight d4, f4, f5. Wow.
Wow is right.
You're saying the bottom seed, huh?
Yeah, he just played knight b8. Very wise move on Nepo's part because he sees what's coming. Knight d4 and f4 coming, so he's looking to try to get rid of this knight on the square.
Right.
But man, if white gets the pawns rolling, it's going to be big trouble.
a6 for Fabi.
a6 for
a6 for Fabi.
Oh my goodness.
So he's going for it. He's going for a6, b5. Nepo, he's doing the Nepo thing. He's playing a chaotic game, up on time tremendously. How many times have I seen Nepo in a lost position? Not saying that he's lost right now.
Right.
But
Not at all.
Yeah,
just blitz out some stuff, and then his opponent makes one mistake in time trouble, and that's all he needed.
Exactly.
And
we saw that in Zagreb. You were there in Croatia when that was happening.
Yes, and the time trouble. And it's such a big point. A move like a6, it's not like necessarily a veiled threat that he's going to play the move b5. It's not exactly veiled. But what's also critical is there are no easy moves here. Your queen, you feel uncomfortable. That queen on f5, remember we said we wish that Pot's the weak, weak engine move? It would be so nice to be back home right now. Right. What are you doing way ahead of the army? The king is separated. This rook on h1, my late friend Ronald Simpson, one of the guys who was most instrumental in me becoming a strong chess player, he used to say to me, it was the first time he really explained, and I understood, if your rook's not in the game, it doesn't even exist on the board.
Right.
Like,
it's not
who
playing
cares? What? That's not a rook. You call that a rook? I mean, look at this thing. This thing is out of the game. So if we go like this and say, this is out of the game, if we took this rook off, you say, well, of course, black is winning. Black is completely ahead. He's ahead of rook. And indeed, black is ahead of rook. In the temporal sense, if black gets going and the action starts when stuff hits the fan, white is going to be down a rook. At the moment, a queen misplaced, it could just end up being much better for black. Now, the engines are saying, we can defend, we can defend, we can defend. But a human sitting looking at this board with no time on the clock, Easy to
so
see a blunder that makes him go way down.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so difficult.
Oh, absolutely.
How many times have we been in winning positions that are unclear? They're winning, but unclear. And your time's ticking, and you enter panic.
Yes.
It's just panic mode. You see the threats, and you see that there's 5 different ways for you to play. None of them lose, but none of them really deal with the threats.
Right.
And it's just chaotic.
Yeah.
And confidence is difficult at that point.
Yeah, and you just said it. It's a very, very key concept in chess. Your confidence, Ding Liren, after these 2 losses, is just, wow, the wind's completely out of his sails, right? I mean, he's just like, oh, this is so bad. But now with the time ticking down, sorry, I was just looking at another game.
This is a super exciting position.
No. It was
No,
just,
but
it all came out of almost a forced opening prep. Anish Giri is a Grunfeld player. He's playing against one of the world's most committed Grunfeld players, MVL. It's always interesting to see when you get 2 heavyweight players who play the same opening, what they're going to do. I think Anish is a little bit better. I like the rook and bishop versus.
Pretty bad for black.
If you can get your king on f2 to eat, king f2 to come up the board to e4. Varushin is telling me
It's not that much to do.
Varushin is telling me way up back in the opening that actually MVL came up with a novel idea, knight d7. This is a new approach for this specific line.
Cool.
And things happened really, really quickly. Not the most
fascinating.
Right. But an ending that favors Anish. By the way, Anish needs to get back into the game. Maurice, over to you.
A very interesting moment occurred in this position with Alexenko and Nepo. Knight went to b8, knight of course went to d4, knight c6, understanding he had to get rid of this knight. Now, this piece, we talked about that piece doesn't count. What pieces don't count because they're sitting there? This piece is not going to count for a while unless you can somehow break through on this file and be able to play bishop takes c2. The bishop, otherwise, is just like big pawn, right? So he's worried about how he's going to get something going. Maybe he can play the move a5 as well and get something here to make the structure pass so that he can play bishop takes c2. Otherwise, he's in big trouble. The answer is to give knight takes c6, queen takes, and queen g4.
Right.
Natural pressure.
Yep.
And g7.
That makes sense.
If you play g6 and queen back, there's a queen landing on f6. Your pawn structure is about to get just cracked with h5 as well. Very nice position. Instead, he played queen g4 first. Sorry, knight c6. He played queen g4 immediately, allowing knight takes. Now he didn't want to lose his initiative, his threat on the g7 square with queen takes d4, which the Indian gives as best. He now played pawn takes. And now this move releases the exact plan we were talking about, some future plan in the distance that Black will wish he gets. Now the bishop says, okay, I see a way into the game.
I'm working.
So now it's working. That's the key. It's working. We talked about the rook in the other position, in the Ding Liren position. It wasn't working on h1. Now this bishop says, oh yeah. So what are you doing? I'm attacking the pawn on c2. I can't take it just yet, but I will one day. So this sequence might have been not the right way, just the exact right way. We talked about the difference between 2700s and 2800s and consistently playing those good moves and not allowing the guy in the game. And it looks like Kirill has let Nepo back in the game. Nepo can even play wild with g5 in this position, apparently. Very sharp move. But now he's got a whole different attitude about it. Now I'm up in exchange. I'm up in exchange. I want to open some files. C2 will hang later. And you don't have the same initiative you would have had before.
Thank you, Maurice, for that. And one final update going on in the game between Alexander Grishuk, Wang Hao. This has been a very slow game, but the 2 bishops for Alexander Grishuk. Grishuk starting with 2 draws in the competition, playing one of the tournament leaders. The weird part is just 1 win by Grishuk, and he's tied for first, and he's right back in the tournament as well.
It seems a bit more pleasant for Grishuk, pair of bishops. There's an isolated pawn on d5. It's
Exactly.
not the clearest thing because White is behind in development considerably.
Yeah,
but what
there's
are you
a lot
going to
of
do
pieces
about it,
on the first rank, right?
Yeah.
I'm probably going to play rook b1, bishop d2. Maybe maybe on a good day, challenge one of the files, probably the C file.
That sounds great, Yasser. Let's go to Fabi's game.
Exactly. And now that we've made our rounds and touched base on all the bases.
Ding Liren quickly put the queen back H3, G3.
Which makes a lot of sense.
It's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
we wanted this for with white side, but the queen on F2. We thought once the queen reaches F2, that's it.
You're right. So A6, B5, Fabi continues his idea. Now, you're on the defense. One of the things that you absolutely can't do is open up the position. Any moves like A4 takes B5 would be a no-no. We'll slap your hands and say, you don't open up the position against your king. AB, you're doing black a great favor, a great service. Thank you very much. Rook A1 will stream into the back rank. So Queen G3, obvious move.
B4 was played.
Again, obvious move. This knight on C3 is kind of holding
everything together.
Yeah, exactly. So let's give it the boot.
It does feel like there's only one move. Knight D1. I don't see
which, by the way,
attacks the queen.
Yeah,
nice.
And Queen B3. We're not
guess
getting
Queen
our
B3.
Queen trap, but I'm looking. Sorry, pawns.
Pawns.
I want to get the file.
No,
I want to do everything. I want to do as much as I can with tempo.
I like Queen B3 because the queen is really annoying. It's still attacking a lot of things, and it's a tempo. The rook on C2, it's very uncomfortable.
Right.
It wants to stay on C2 because it covers both the second rank and it covers the C file. So you're kind of making it choose. Do you want to go to C6? Do you want to go to D2? Right. There's advantages and disadvantages for both.
Right.
I would say Rook D2 looks like the more logical move.
Yeah.
And then I'm wondering if I continue the pressure with something like Rook C8, Rook C1, or do I start taking a pawn? Can I take a pawn and queen the A pawn?
And I'm a pawn grubber, but I got to tell you, I would go for the attacking moves, Rook C8, Rook C1. It just feels like you want to stream into White's position.
But
by the way,
other hand,
isn't the Rook takes E4?
Rook takes E4 doesn't work because I think your queen on B3 is hanging.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not hanging.
Isn't that sweet? Knight takes E4. Give me the rook. Take knight. Funny. I know that's a crazy. It's a crazy line, and I'm sure White can do better than what I'm doing, but.
Although even here, you only won a pawn, right? So you're still worse.
Did I win one or two?
You only won one. Rook takes E4.
Oh.
You only won. Unfortunate. But what I wanted to...
Wait,
also, back up, because...
No, I'm even in pawns. Just a second. Where did I win the second pawn?
Oh, F3 takes E4. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Maurice, jump in.
Rook takes E4 is met, sadly, by Rook to D3.
Oh, another party pooper.
Sorry.
Oops, that was a mouse-slip. I apologize. Rook D3.
You just collapsed.
Oh, that's a nice move.
And I'm sorry to say...
Yes.
You know, one of those things about attacking moves, we think there are only pluses to those moves. It's only positives. We're being aggressive.
Attacking.
We're attacking. But there's always negatives to things, even if you don't notice it. We talk about drawback chess. One of the drawbacks of all these moves that White is playing is actually organizing, the moves Black's playing is organizing White's defenses. White is slowly tightening the pieces, knitting them together. That knight on D1 looks bad for now. It is not in a great space. But if you look at that position with the rook guarding the knight, guarding the bishop, with the king, the queen now, remember we had a queen on F5. Now it's going back now to join the party on F2 and D4. Now you start to say, wait, you can win one back? You could win two back, but if I play queen d4 and then I get my king to f2 and then the other rook comes in, my knight's going to jump to e3. You're not queening so easily, and don't forget the d pawn. That d5 pawn exists. Then those central pawns, they do exist. You get a little f4 action with an e5 thing. You won't be talking about White as being so bad anymore. So Fabi has to be mindful here that he is knitting together White's harmony in this position that White didn't have before, and White's just 2 moves away from castling. You hear me say castling. That's
King F2.
King F2, castling by hand, rook into the game, and then that's it. So let's be mindful. The guy is up 2 pawns. It's not like you can just sit back and say he's never going to make any moves and never going to make any progress because, you know, I've been attacking all this time.
Right.
This is a very tricky situation right now for Fabi.
No, I agree. The knight on d1 is such a solid piece. It holds everything together. The d2 pawn, the e3 square, kicking out that queen from e3 was such a nice tempo idea. I like the idea of taking on a4, moving the queen and queening the pawn, but it is pretty slow. So it does come down to the tempi. And you're showing some variations. I saw you.
Right. I was just trying to figure out if I just played some natural moves for both players. And what what Maurice is saying, that knight e3, king f2, white starts to harmonize. There is a d-pawn, and you're not queening so easily. Back to the, I believe this is the current position, guys?
I think so, yes.
We've been talking about rook c8, rook c1 as an alternative, and we're talking about queen takes a4.
But also, what does rook c8 actually do?
Develop a piece.
Yeah, it's a bit vague, right?
Yeah, I'm bringing my rook into the game, as Maurice has been talking about his mentor, a teacher, who said, if your rook's not participating, it ain't a rook. So rook c8, rook c1 is participating.
Yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, the bishop and the rook guard d1
Exactly,
all day long.
exactly. I'm not saying that I'm doing anything super special. I just, okay.
And I wish I had a better move than h6.
Right.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Oh
like,
yeah, H6 looks like a
I keep
complete
looking at the
Right
position,
now,
why
I'm thinking,
h6?
Why H6?
If the pawn was on h5, I
Even
would
h5,
be,
right?
right? You know, I mean, it could be
Agreed.
going h4 or something. What are you doing? And by the way, this is great prep. Great prep. We've been saying that ever since we got here. But has black
Overstepped.
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
it's not overstepped. You mean
or just stopped.
slow? Yeah, his momentum
He
is
slowed down
slowing.
too much.
Did he play too slowly with the move A6 and did this idea of queen C5, queen
E3.
queen B6 to E3?
Yeah.
Did this just simply allow white to what looks like not harmonized because you bring your knight back, but actually, as you look at it, it looks like solidified even more. And white plans to play queen F2. White plans to play, you're pushing the guy. It looks like you're pushing. I'm pushing. Yeah, you're pushing him to good squares, thanks.
Yeah.
So now he wants to play queen F2. He wants to play G3 and make your knight on G6 not have any future.
Right.
Then play king G2. That's another point as well. Queen to D4. I mean, there's just, white's starting to look too solid. White's looking sensible. This move is not any threat with rook to C1. Rook C8, rook C1. What's your next idea?
He's taking on a4, by the way.
Right, now he's gotten one pawn back.
But
White is thrilled. Take the pawn. I still got one.
Give me the tempo for development.
That's right.
For one pawn.
For one pawn, you did all that. And think about it.
All that hard work.
What
yeah.
progress did black make getting this pawn back?
Not that
too
much.
much.
What has moved? Take a look. Answer the question. We go all the way back to queen B6. Okay? Queen B6. We're going to go here.
Right
here.
here.
You play queen B6
Yeah.
in this position.
So you
Now-
look at the knights, look at the rooks, look at black's position,
Yep.
and queen b6.
All right, now we go fast forward to the current position, and white's queen is backed up. White's queen is shifted to G3. White has solidified with the knight on D1. He didn't play, and the rook on D2. And you take a pawn, and now it's white's move again to do something useful. In other words, all those moves you gained a queen on A4, you got one pawn, and a pawn on B4, which is not saying much right now.
It's not very
You
convincing.
made a lot of moves. You made a lot of moves to get one pawn back. When you were attacking and punching and hitting, you made a lot of moves. In the meantime, white has played a lot of useful moves to get to this case.
And he's played queen f2 almost immediately.
Queen on f5, which was misplaced, is suddenly coming to this beautiful position.
Finally.
On D4, which again will help white's king. G2, G3, king G2, queen D4, king F2,
Well,
and suddenly harmony in white's position.
Well, Maurice, what is the engine evaluation?
That white is completely winning. Like way ahead. Almost 3 pawns. Yeah, way ahead.
Guys, I'm sorry.
Way
to say,
ahead.
I was really, really excited by what Fabi was doing, but now
No, he played a lot of-
now I feel like
Deflated. Absolutely. H6 was slow. The queen maneuver wasn't accurate. He probably played a little bit on his opponent's clock.
Putting myself in Fabi's shoes, and Rustam, my coach, is showing me this position. I'm getting more thrilled and thrilled and thrilled until I see the move H6. That was the move that
Very
really
soft
that was the damper right there. You had mentioned queen b4, you had mentioned rook e5, even a6 in this position. Somehow that rook on a1 became a useful move on a useful rook on d2.
It's just so difficult to understand this move h6 because, okay, queen g5, I understand trying to move the queen back to d2, but
Getting back into the game vis-a-vis this way, but we were looking at queen b4, we were looking at rook e5, and also a6. And
That's
Wow,
very strange.
very strange.
So the engine evaluation is Fabi's just lost.
Lost by a lot. You have nothing to do about the plan G3 and King G2. Nothing. You have nothing. You have no progress. You haven't done anything, and you're not doing anything. It's just a lost position for Black right now. Objectively speaking,
He's a pawn down.
You're a pawn down.
Great center.
In fact, I'll say this. If you dropped us on this board, like we walked into
didn't
the studio,
see,
we hadn't
previous
seen
positions.
anything that had happened before, we'd
just
say, wow,
lost.
this seems weird, the king on F1. What's the pawn count? Oh, there's 6 against 5. Black has some, looks like Black might have something with his
Vague
knight. But
threats.
whose move is it? Oh, wait, White's gonna play G3? Hey, wait a minute. What if White plays G3, King G2, and brings the rook into the game? What does Black have? That's what we'd be saying.
Exactly.
If you just dropped this. We have the illusion of having seen all the crazy moves to get to this point.
Yeah.
But now that we look, we go,
No, I don't.
We're not happy.
Not happy at all.
I don't
mean,
like this position.
No.
There has to be some craziness with rook takes e4 being an actual threat.
That's
Exactly.
right.
For me
That's
to
right.
think that
To be
Black has
impressed.
anything.
To
Right.
be impressed. Otherwise, Black's position is just being owned.
Exactly. You
I
start
agree.
to say, if I don't have ideas of rook takes e4 or knight takes e4 and exploit immediately, the unpleasant position of White's king,
Right.
I got nothing for the pawn. And
How
by the way,
insane would
that's-
this be if Ding Loren won this game?
Oh, it just blows the tournament
Oh my
wide
goodness.
open. Wide open.
Well, I don't know that it blows the tournament wide open.
What?
It just,
He will be half a point from Fabi.
we got it.
well,
that
it
is true,
certainly
but
pushes
look
Fabi
at,
back.
Look at the other
and
actors.
brings Ding Loren up.
I mean, Jan
Right?
Jan.
It's true, but the other guys will be smiling.
MVL.
I think-
I
will be
think any
smiling.
other result that was not a Ding Liren victory
Yes.
means Ding Liren mathematically.
It's
Oh, yes,
virtually
it is
eliminated.
virtually eliminated.
Get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
It does
You've already
change.
had 2 whites.
Your tournament's over, dude.
Yeah. But he wins.
He wins.
Okay, you're -1. You can try to fight.
You can try to
Right.
And then Ding Liren's back in the tournament. That's one more incredibly important person.
Right.
Who suddenly gets wind behind his sails.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about.
We started the show by saying, like, what an amazing event it's been so far. This round 3
Full
is
of
just going
contact.
to. Breaking news.
Yes, we do indeed have breaking news as we have the first result of the round. We're not so surprised by it, but Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Anish Giri have contracted peace. Let's not kill
The
each other.
halving
Today
the
we're
point.
going to go home. Versailles Treaty? No, not quite, but indeed. Let's just take the draw and get the heck out of here. This game has ended in a draw, so currently Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is in clear first, but we expect that to change shortly. But certainly that result, an important one for the event.
Exactly. And it was a repetition because there was no draw offer, right, Maurice?
Right, you're not allowed to accept a draw before move 40.
Or offer draw.
Or offer a draw before move 40. So this happened, knight c4, rook to d3, and he just kept bothering this piece, and he kept going back, and they repeated.
Now, I appreciate that Anish isn't having a great tournament, but why didn't Anish repeat the position? Why didn't Anish, for example, avoid the repetition with the move rook c2 after knight c4?
Rook to 93 probably.
Yeah, I was thinking that he would play rooks. Again,
This one?
Yeah, rook c2, knight e3. Aha. And if I try to go rook, maybe you...
c1.
I'm not even sure that white is better anymore. Knight d5, knight c3.
Knight d5, knight c3. I was hoping that white's king could play a more useful role than it currently is. Knight d5 and knight c3. I mean, that is a tempo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, a fair result there by those two players. And how is Nepo doing, by the way? Because when we left it, he had climbed his way back in the game thanks to this knight takes d4, and this bishop is alive. Whoa. We left it here. We were thinking that g7, g5 was a possibility. Bishop takes c2 immediately just simply runs into rook c1, and that would be a tremendous
And that's going to be
blunder.
the tactic for a while.
Exactly.
C2 will not be hanging for a very long time.
Right. Also note that white doesn't want to simply consolidate with c3 because that also would release the bishop for action. Okay, g6, h5. Whoa.
No, I think you have to do this because your rooks need breathing room.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you don't have any actual files.
True. Good point. And he has castled.
There was
F4, king
F4.
b8. And this is the current position, I think.
Yes.
Alexenko, 7 minutes for the next 12 moves.
Not that great. As
Not that
usual,
great,
Jan.
especially because he has a tough choice now. Either do nothing and wait, which is also a tough thing to do.
Want to play F5 somewhere, somehow.
But that's the thing. You start releasing black's rooks.
Exactly. But I feel that long-term, being an exchange down, if I don't, force the action with F5, Rook F1, Rook F6, or some business, I'm just going to lose the game.
So let's take a look. F5 looks incredibly logical to me.
Right.
Of course, the engines hate it.
Of course.
Of course.
Because you're opening up the position for the rooks, and maybe Rook G8, not too sure.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Bishop takes C2 works.
Bishop takes C2 works?
Yeah, it works now.
Oh, because of the B pawn. Rook C1, Queen B6?
Yes.
You're getting out of the pin.
And I take on
D4 with a check. I played F4, F5.
Yeah, thank you for opening
exposing
the
your king. Exposing my king. Whoops.
So Bishop C2 is that threat right now.
Then it's exactly.
Then you have to actually cover.
So I'm actually obliged to play C3, Bishop
Let the bishop
here,
out, and then go
F5.
F5.
I don't believe it, of course. I think that this is a solid exchange.
Bishop on C4 is still not amazing.
No, but it's useful.
It is useful, unlike on A4.
Right.
Yeah.
I really like the exchange sacrifice. I just didn't like the follow-up.
I agree that the compensation here is still there,
Yeah.
but it's not clear. It does feel like the rook is getting that power. You see the position opening up. The bishop is becoming better and better.
That's right.
Obviously, there's no threats on black's king.
Right.
So Nepo is going to slowly bring the rooks. It might be very difficult to actually convert. It might be difficult to make progress, but now it does feel like it's a black advantage.
Exactly. That's exactly right. A quick glance before we start to take our first break of the day. This is the game of Grishuk versus Wang Hao. Again, Wang Hao is one of those players, one of our leaders who could have potentially been 2-0. He had a winning position yesterday. He did let Anish escape. Bishop D2 immediately, inviting black to capture on B2 was Grishuk's idea. Bishop takes B2, by the way, Rook B1. Thank you. White would just thank his opponent for letting the rook into the game. So we're not going to see a bishop takes B2. What are we going to see instead here, Alejandro?
I would probably just defend the B7 pawn. Something like either Rook E7 or Rook C7. I'm not sure there's a big difference.
Makes sense to me. The difference that I saw is White was somehow trying to, how do you say, steal a tempo, right?
Oh, steal a tempo like
because
this.
a moment before I was playing Rook B1, Bishop D2. Now I'm inviting you to take, and I would recapture with the bishop. And I kind of feel like, hey, progress is being made here.
It does feel small for White, like very small.
I do that at the during the game when I sit there and I pat myself on the back. I say, "Ooh, I saved myself a tempo."
Yes,
I feel good about it.
There you go.
I mean, it doesn't win the game,
no,
but I feel good that I made that little insightful move, Bishop D2. Okay.
If I had to bet, it's very drawish. This Wang Hao game.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you're at the board.
You would rather be
bishops.
Grishuk. Yeah, I'd rather be White.
Right. That was what Genis Sazanko said to me once when I said, "Yeah, the position's equal." And Genis says, "Yeah, but gentlemen prefer the two bishops." All right, Alejandro, we're ready for our first. Not quite yet, but we're going to be taking a break soon.
Yes. Do we have any other moves? I think that Fabi's tanking, and that's something we really should talk about because Fabi. He played a lot of quick moves. He got into the attack, and Dingliran, it seems like he's had 10 minutes for the last hour.
Right. You're right.
Because it's always been Fabi thinking. Fabi's the one that proposed the position, he gave up the pawns, he put the threats, but now he's running out of steam.
Right.
And as a player, you kind of realize something's going wrong.
The momentum.
My momentum's swinging.
The other guy's
I'm not down as much material. My position is not great. Where do I create the counterplay? Where do I practically put that pressure on my opponent to keep myself in the game? Perhaps Maurice can tell us a little bit more about what's happened in the tournament.
But first of all, you've got some highlights for us, though, Maurice, of the first two rounds.
Well, it indeed has been a special event. So we want to just recap the top 5 highlights from the first 2 rounds. Some beautiful moves that you will see. And we're going to start with number 5 between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Fabiano Caruana. A sacrifice has happened on F7. Knight takes on F7. It looks like there's going to be some dangerous discovery in this position, but Fabi kept his cool and played the surprising E4, saying, do what you want, move your knight anywhere, I don't care. Turns out that there is no great discovery in this position. E4 is a wonderful move. He went on, of course, with many adventures to draw this game. Number 4 from round 2. Well, this one was a beatdown. Vachier-Lagrave having already secured a fantastic position against Ding Liren. Finish it off in style with the move B7. B7, nice move. If you capture with the knight, knight e4 check is a crushing fork. He captured with the bishop and allowed bishop to a5, and that simply wins a piece and the game. That was it. Ding Liren had to resign after bishop to a5, b7, a great move. And now to number 3 from round 1. Again, poor Ding Liren, this time against his countryman Wang Hao. And in this position, Wang played the beautiful rook to g4, sacrificing an exchange. Take it if you want to, but those pawns corrected themselves or connected themselves and just became too powerful, and resignation was soon after this fantastic move. And now to number 2. We saw it from Fabulous Fabi against the bottom seed Alexenko. He had an attack, did Fabi, an extra piece, putting the pressure, but he dropped the bomb with the move knight takes on h5, opening up that king. He followed it up very strongly with a bishop to f5. That was all she wrote in this game. This was all he could do but resign. Well, he actually tried to play the Alexenko and was finished off in embarrassing style, but a crushing blow by Caruana. But number 1 is so nice. We've got 2 moves to show. First of all, in this position with Giri versus Nepomniachtchi, the move B5. What a shocker. That one must have floored Giri when he saw it. The sacrifice, not seemingly usual, but the point is to create that pass, c-pawn, a square, an escort down the board with c2. He was not able to capture this pawn after b5. He captured on c3, later had to give up his queen, and then he tried to create a fortress in this position, but it was no real fortress because of our move of the first 2 rounds, queen d3, a very special move indeed. Sacrificing the queen, you cannot capture it because the pawn will capture and queen itself. And now the king is ready to march to c3 to d2 and create all kinds of havoc. This position, this move, caused resignation by Giri. So we've seen some very special moves so far. There are highlights from the first 2 rounds.
Boy, thank you for those, Maurice. Those are really wonderful memories. I remember that E4 by Fabi because I was frightened. I was saying, oh my goodness, MVL's got this crushing attack. And just E4, just like he refused to see ghosts. No intimidation whatsoever. Comfortable game. Even he would maybe even was a little bit better.
Yeah, he was certainly pressing for what it
at the end. Yeah,
a major part of the game. But okay, that one fizzled into a little bit of a draw. Speaking of Fabi, let's go to his game. There are a couple more moves.
Okay.
He did retreat queen d7.
Okay, after he captured the pawn on a4, we did see the move queen f2. As expected, the queen is bringing herself back into the fight with queen d4, maybe g3, maybe for king f2,
So
but
queen
after
d7,
queen d7,
g3 was played.
Okay, we're from Fabi's point of view, he's trying to get a pass pawn and queen that pawn with a5, a4, g2, g3. By the way, echoing the thoughts of Maurice, that once you play the move g3, the knight on g6 starts to cry a little bit. Hey, how am I going to get into the game? Queen h3 check. Wow.
And very quickly, king g1 as a reply.
To
which I am very surprised, because against queen g2, what was the plan?
Queen g2.
I think I'm going back.
But then I can play queen f2, and if I have 10 minutes on the clock, I'm pretty happy, right?
Gain moves. And think about
repeat.
that. From a practical standpoint, queen g2 was the better move from a practical standpoint.
The only question was if the queen's better on c8, and after queen f2, black has another move, but I'm not so sure about that.
Black is in deep trouble in this position, guys. Black wants to repeat and pray for the draw because white is trying to develop. King g1 by Ding Liren is a move that says you got your great prep, You got all those nice moves.
And I'm going to crush you.
And now
I'm going to crush you.
Now,
Wow.
I'm going to make you pay. You made me suffer. You didn't play sprightly enough chess, and now I'm going to make you pay. I mean, he looks like he's burying his rook on the square. That's not going to last. He's going to move his queen. Then he's going to play knight f2 and boot the black queen out the position, guard everything. So queen d4, knight f2, king g2, rook on h1 to d1. Bye-bye, I'm just up. And these moves are easy. They're easy. Black has no way to crack the position. He has to pray his pawn runs down the board somehow. But in the meantime, we're going to see a knight f2, get your queen out of there, a king g2, and bring the rook. And why should I think I'm ever going to lose? No, that's out. It's whether or not I win now, not whether or not I lose.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that center has got a lot to say for it. Oh, my goodness. It's looking.
And it's easy. The worst part is it's easy.
Well, White definitely, as you're pointing out, Maurice, White definitely knows what he's about to do. He's about to play knight f2, king g2, bring his rook into the game, and it's that easy.
It's that easy.
Exactly.
We don't see a good defense. So a5 already on the board.
A5 on the board.
I agree that queen d4 looks incredibly logical. You want to boot the queen with the knight more than you do with the bishop.
Exactly.
And may I say something, just a quick point? Isn't preparation supposed to be good for the guy who prepares?
Exactly.
Right? Because we saw Anish Giri blitz out moves, like just whoop, 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 whoop against Nepo.
Yeah,
Right.
he got crushed.
I got my great prep.
Right.
He got mauled.
Right.
Okay? Now we're looking at Fabi. Great prep. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah.
And now he's in deep trouble.
He's on the back foot.
That just shows you guys, don't overstate. Guys at home, oh, I don't know the openings as well. My guys get good positions. That's an excuse. Of course you want to know your openings well. We get that. But don't overestimate the value of opening play. Make sure you know how to play chess. Okay? Make sure you got your middle games down, your end games tight, your defensive skills right. Really focus on that. Get decent positions. You don't have to get winning positions. Just get decent positions. Obviously, you don't want to have bad positions all the time. But even at the 2,800 level, you can gift someone great prep, and it still doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win the game.
Right.
And in fact, they may even draw the game, because we're watching great prep. The result of great prep might be 0-2 in this tournament.
Shocking.
It's unbelievable.
Quick look at the standings after our first result, Alejandro, of round 3.
Yeah, a draw between Anish Giri and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave means that MVL is currently the leader with 2 points. But of course, out of all of the people that have 1.5, we kind of expect at least one of them will score half a point.
Exactly.
And meanwhile, Anish with 1 point out of 3, not the way that he wanted to start, especially with 2 whites out of the first 3. We will be talking to him very shortly here on the show through Skype, so stay tuned.
That will be very nice to have him join us. And again, this was yesterday he got lucky. Yesterday he got lucky with that draw.
Yes.
And kind of restored some semblance of confidence. Today he had a very easy game, I guess, with the white pieces. Just stop the bleeding.
Yeah, it was the first time that he wasn't worse at any point of the game.
Right.
Yesterday it was just suffering. The first game was a disaster.
Right.
He reins back his horse and says, okay, let's just play a normal game. A little bit of prep against my opponent's Grunfeld, but he never risked excessively. Even in the end game, it just felt like he could have pressed a little bit harder.
I had the same feeling too. Rook and bishop versus rook and knight, and your king's faster.
Yeah, it was a little bit
game.
closer to the pawn on d4. It felt more like a weakness, but he allowed MVL to remaneuver the knight, and after that, it seemed like a pretty easy draw.
Fair enough.
An interesting game.
Yep.
We have plenty of action left. What's going on in the other games?
Well, the game that I thought was in one of our tournament leaders' favor was the Jan Nepo game.
And they followed pretty much what we said.
When we left it, Kirill decided that he had to play this move c3 if he wants to play f5 because bishop takes c2 is really on tap.
Yeah, this idea of queen b6 and taking on d4, it felt like out of nowhere. But
Right, yeah. This is the nice tactic that we're talking about. Anybody who's joining is a little bit late here. If you play f5, bishop takes c2, and you're thinking, aha, I got you, I'm going to win a piece. Queen b6 is a cold shower. Queen takes d4 check, and one of white's bishops on the file is disappearing. That was why c3, not the, pardon me, was played, not the move that white desired. Let's black's bishop back into the game. But now, having said that, how good is that extra exchange?
It's an exchange. It's not the best, and the reason it's not the best is that it's difficult to coordinate your rooks on the G file. You would love to double them. H6 is very weak. But let's go really quickly to Yekaterinburg as we have our friend Anish Giri streaming live from there. Hey Anish, how are you doing?
Hello, hello. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, Anish. A solid result today. We were thinking after 2 tough games, it was time to play a little bit more solid chess.
Yeah, but it would have been nice to also win. The plan was to play solid chess and win, but I don't know. I think Maxim probably played fine because I was trying to find something, but I just didn't see anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
2 big experts of the Grunfeld. Anish, what was the surprise moment for you from the opening? I know you both are very, very well prepared Grunfeld players. You played pretty quickly to the position I have on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many options I have in my analysis and stuff, but what I recalled was that Rook D8 was played here by Nepomniachtchi. And Knight D7, I do not recall, but...
Okay, so Knight D7 kind of took you a little bit by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a move in my file, but I did not recall it.
Okay, take us through what happened thereafter.
Yeah, well, I thought, to be honest, I didn't see the issue. So, I mean, now that I realize that there were some issues, like I thought just castle, yeah, Knight B6. Bishop E2, yeah, now, I mean, I was thinking also, maybe Bishop B5 is possible. To be honest, I didn't see what happens after C4. Maybe, I mean, it's an ugly move, but you want Queen C5 and takes.
Yeah, Bishop's kind of trapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like E5, even like I can sack the Bishop, like E5, Queen C5, Knight D4, A6, maybe F5, I don't know, maybe I crush. Yeah, I'm just crashing probably. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. No, well, the thing is, it's not even that I was thinking something, it's just that I didn't see the need for Bishop B5, but maybe it was necessary.
Wow,
that's
a nice line, Anish.
Yeah, I mean, it's not why I refused Bishop B5, I just thought, okay, he can make any other move, like Queen E7 or D4, as in Bishop E2, but after Bishop E2, D4, E5, he's got Queen D7. Which I missed from far, yeah, now I don't see. Because after Queen E7, I have some ideas of F5, CD F5, but...
Sorry.
Bishop, Queen E7 instead of D7.
Queen E7 instead of D. Yes, then you had some issues.
Okay, maybe F5, I don't know, because Bishop F3, but maybe F5 actually, Bishop F3, F6, Queen E5, Rook F3. I think he's got G5 only move, no, or not? Maybe he's got Knight D5. Wait, has he got Knight D5 as well?
Yeah, Knight D5 attacks the F6 pawn.
Yeah, no, that was not the thing. No, you have to go CD first instead of F5. I thought.
One more.
And then
CD.
And then Rook A8, I thought. Yeah, and then I was wondering about F5 here.
No, but this actually looks...
Yeah, because
Bishop
F3, I've got Queen H6 maybe.
Running F6.
Wow.
Yeah.
This
Maybe.
is visual.
I mean, it is more fun than, basically it was all interesting and I was thinking about it and then he got Queen D7. And after Queen D7, F5, he just takes on F5.
So Maxim ruined your fun, huh?
Yeah, I thought still I have to be better, but I didn't see how. So then finally I decided to just play the most normal moves and see, but I didn't think this endgame is anything. The problem is that he's got Knight A4, so if I play Rook D3, Rook D8, actually Rook D3, Rook D8, if I go King F2, he's got Knight A4, I think.
And
Though I was not sure.
And if in this moment you had started, I don't know, with Rook A3?
Yeah, Rook A3, I thought about. Let me tell you what bothered me.
My editors and my think are pretty good.
Maybe, can I go Rook D8?
It does feel a little bit more pleasant, right? King F2, don't really have D3.
Yeah, but I don't think he'll let me consolidate. At least maybe knight somewhere.
D5.
Yeah, maybe G3, yeah.
I'm still pressuring those
Still
pawns,
looks
right?
like the rook and bishop might.
Okay, but okay, knight C3, let's say rook B8 or something. Okay, wait a second, maybe I should be... Yeah, something was bugging me, but I don't recall what it was, to be honest.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Well,
I just wanted
Even
to ask
this
you,
match,
how are you feeling in Russia? How do you feel in these very, very strange times that are happening, Anish? You feel comfortable there?
Well, I mean, to an extent, I think there is probably no better place right now to be in than here, because everywhere else, people pretty much stop their activities, you know?
Right, lockdown.
And they have to stay home, and there is not much to do or other than watch this tournament. And for us, it's like, an island where... It's like an island where life happens. It's a little bit like these TV shows like Big Brother.
Yeah.
It's like you are there and the rest of the people are just watching it 24/7 and don't do anything else. It's the feeling I get, because of course it's not also, for us it's also different. I mean, you feel, you know, with all the doctor checks and sometimes, like Fabi pointed out, irrational reactions to things, you get a bit more worried, but yeah, compared to the rest of the world, probably, you know, you live as normal as you usually do. You prepare, you eat, you play. But yeah, it's different. We even stopped taking walks, and even I feel uncomfortable going to the gym because there are so many people, you know, using the stuff. Whereas usually I wouldn't hesitate and definitely enjoy all the 5-star facilities. And now I'm really cutting down on things.
Right.
Because I feel you have to be responsible also towards organizers. They're trying to make this work, and we should also, as players, try to make this work.
Well, I had a question, Anish. Sorry to bring back a little bit of a painful memory. Maurice was making the point that you had this awesome preparation against Jan, and it really backfired. And now we see Fabi also with an incredible preparation, and it looks like it might also backfire. Well, what's going on?
It's a thing. It's normal. I mean, I actually knew this idea that Fabi played, and I know a lot of fun ideas, but I don't always dare to play them, because what you do is you raise the level of complicity, and you do have an edge over your opponent, but it's not so big, and sometimes maybe you don't feel like... I mean, my game against Jan, to be honest, Jan reacted just incredibly well. I mean, he actually equalized in a way in which I didn't really find natural. I didn't recall pretty much. And then, okay, I should have still held the game, but the fact that he didn't collapse was already very impressive. And Ding as well. Well, you've got these players who react to novelties quite well. I mean, Ding, he just plays how he thinks is the best. I mean, there are players who would be scared to leave this queen on f5, you know, out of play, and they would try to, let's say after bishop c2, queen d2, c5, they would try to go maybe e3, much more timid, try to weather the storm. And Ding, he just goes for what he thinks is the best, as if he plays an amateur and the guy makes a mistake and he's okay, I'm going to punish you. So yeah, then if White has such an approach, then the game becomes double-edged. And yeah, Fabiano, though, it's his own fault, because I mean, this move h6 that he made, that is
very critical
really not in the spirit of the position. No, I mean, you're supposed to be 2 pawns down and you're supposed to do something dynamic, but you should not be. It's not a moment for h6, no.
Yeah, it seems very strange.
I mean, at the very least, it's a6 b5 it makes more sense immediately.
Right,
the h6 is just. I mean, you should not be losing any time. I guess. I'm in particularly confident because I also saw the computer evaluation, then so it's very easy for me then to say it. How bad it is. But that being said, even without the computer evaluation, for a player like Fabi, it is a strange. He maybe had some point that h6, rook somewhere, rook h5, rook g5 maybe was his idea. It was maybe concrete, but still it's not really in the spirit of the position. Actually, here, if not h6, I really like this position. I thought maybe rook e5, though I didn't see a follow-up. I assumed he maybe will find something.
Right. We actually thought of playing rook e5 before even taking the bishop as a better way of continuing.
What is the difference if h3?
You keep attacking knight f4. I think.
But then, you know what? He's afraid queen g3.
Yeah, I thought queen g3 he had a problem with knight. Knight
Maybe
6,
bishop d4 he was afraid or not. Can I sacrifice the queen?
You can try bishop d4. Yeah.
Yeah, let's try. I don't know. I can also move the queen, of course. Yeah, but let's try to. Oh, sorry. Can I also go? I could go queen h4 first instead of queen
g3.
Here, queen
and
h4
then
first.
g5 we liked.
Yeah, and then queen g3.
And then check king f1.
No, queen g3, queen g3 maybe.
Queen g3 trapping your queen though, right?
And here, the knight h5, bishop d4 maybe.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't know. I don't. The thing is, my screen is cut off, so I don't see the A file.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't see the A file, but it looks.
Anish, we wanted to thank you so much for joining us. That was very, very kind of you.
It looks good for white, no? Doesn't it look good for white, this position?
Well, you sacrificed your
position,
queen, and it's definitely a double-edged position. Probably a better queen sacrifice than you
A lot
played
of things we
against.
found. Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck for the rest of the tournament. Join us again, Anish.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good.
All right, Maurice, we got breaking news on this exact game. What's going on?
What is going on indeed? Well, this is just pure desperation on the part of Fabi because he sees that he's in big trouble. The prep did not work out, and now he needs to do something. He played the move knight h5, knight to f2, chasing the queen out of there, and then the bold f4. Everything, it seemed, under control, and Fabi said, you know what? I got a sack. I got to do something. I've got to keep some kind of hope alive in this position. Knight takes f4 with possible threats. I don't even see the threats, to be honest. King f1 played, and now he is down a piece. He has one pawn for it. The position has gotten much more chaotic. The rook is still on h1. There may be a chance to push the pawn. He's playing practically right now. It is move 37. Dinglerin has 7 minutes and 35 seconds to make 3 moves with 30-second increments coming. We don't think that should be any trouble at all for him to make.
Attacking?
I'm thinking this is like an echo of the game that we saw yesterday between Fabi and Kirill, where King H1, Rook G1.
Yes.
King F1, Rook G1.
I'm threatening G7.
By the way, and even more so because it looks like he's only one pawn for the piece.
Right.
He's the one up the piece is white. It looks like Fabi's the same thing, right? Fabi was down. Like everything is just working in Dinglerin's favor right now.
Exactly.
This position is dead. This position is a guess by Fabi, a hope, desperate measures in desperate times, but unfortunately for him, this is way too easy. That knight on f2 now looks perfect. The coordination of the rook and the queen, the bishop right now is irrelevant. Everything is covered. There's no attack anywhere. And by the way, an a4, be wary, you can't even get that going because they might just take your pawn on b4 and say, what are you doing exactly? This one is dead lost.
Dead lost. That's exactly right. Well, thank you, Maurice. Let's go very quickly to VAR. Kobian has some chess insights for us while we take a very small break.
All right.
Some tricks and traps in a Slav exchange variation. So let's start with d4. d5, c4, c6. So we have Slav, and exchange variation is considered that it's not very challenging, but I believe there are still a lot of tricky ideas that the black should know how to play against. So knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6, bishop f4, and here black has a few options. One is to play a6, e6, and bishop f5. So I'll show you how to play against all of these lines. So let's say he plays e6, you will play e3, bishop d6, bishop g3, and now if castle, you take back with the pawn, opening up the h-file, castles, bishop d3. And here you already have some interesting ideas on h7, and for example, if he's not careful and plays a move like b6, now this move is already losing. Here you have knight e5, attacking the knight on c6, bishop b7, and now you have a nice idea, bishop takes h7 check. If knight takes h7, you play queen h5, threatening mate on h7. If the knight goes to f6, queen h8 mate. If rook e8, then you will play queen f7 check, king h8, knight g6 mate. After bishop h7, if black decides to go king h8, you can play bishop g6 check, king to g8, and now a very nice finish with bishop takes f7, rook takes f7, and now deflection, rook h8, sacrificing the rook. After king takes, knight f7, forking the king and queen and winning. So of course b6 is a really bad move here, but it happens. I've seen this happen in a lot of blitz games. My students won many games in this line as well. So black needs to watch out. So maybe move like h6 here, it's better. So just remember, when you play e6, e3, bishop d6, you will play bishop g3, and if capture, you take back with the h pawn. The other line I want to show you is if he plays bishop f5, the most natural move, you play e3, now e6, and you play queen b3. Now you're putting pressure on b7, and it's not so easy to defend against this threat, so you have to know the theory here. For example, I'll show you a few ways that black can lose here immediately. So queen d7, for example, natural move defending the pawn, but now this move loses to a very strong knight takes e5, attacking the queen, and capture on e5. Here it's very important to take back with a pawn, actually, because if you take back with the bishop, you're going to give black time to play the move a6 and stop bishop b5. And if you play the bishop b5 right away, then he can bring the same knight back to c6 and blocking the pin. So you will take back with a pawn, attacking the knight, and as soon as the knight moves, you will play a devastating bishop b5, pinning the queen and winning the game, basically. So queen d7 loses after knight e5. I mean, maybe he can play queen c8, but after rook c1, it's a really, really bad position here. There's going to be a lot of pressure on a c file. So let's look at other options. For example, b6 is really bad as well. It just loses to bishop b5, rook c8, knight e5, winning the piece on c6. And another option, if he plays knight a5, this loses to bishop b5 check. If you go knight d7, queen a4, putting pressure on d7. And now if a6, you go to capture on d7, queen takes d7, and queen takes a5, winning the piece. So again, it's very tricky here. It seems very simple and symmetrical, but here black should play bishop b4. That's pretty much the only move here. Other alternative is queen b6, but after queen takes b6, a takes b6, rook c1, white is slightly better here. So now let's take a look at the last line with a6. Here it's very important you start with rook c1, because if you play e3, that will allow bishop b4 pin, so you don't want to play that. So bishop f5, you will play e3, e6, and now again, a very tricky move, queen b3 again, same idea, putting pressure on b7. And here it seems like queen b3 is not a good move because black can play knight a5, but if he does that, you have queen a4 check. If he plays b5, knight takes b5, pawn takes b5, bishop b5 check. If you go king e7, it just leads to the mate, queen b4, queen d6 mate. And if you play knight d7, there are a few other ways to win, but I like this line with knight e5, attacking on d7. If knight c6, knight takes c6, rook takes a4, you can take on d8, rook takes a2, rook c8, and now if black was for the rook a1 check, king e2, rook takes h1, that leads to the knight c6 mate. And the other option here is to play bishop b4 check, for example, to try to castle, but you just play king f3, rook b2 check, king f3. Now again, the threat is knight c6 check, so you have to castle, and now simply bishop takes d7, and white is up a piece here. There's bishop e4 check, king g3. So this is something you look into against the Slav defense. I like the exchange variation, and I hope you can use some of these tricks to win some games. And thank you, and we'll be back after the break for the round 3 coverage of the Candidates Tournament.
and welcome back to round 3 of the Candidates 2020. And we already have a couple of results. We had seen that Anish Giri has drawn with Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and Kirill Alexenko has done the same with Jan Nepomniachtchi. But what a sharp draw that was, and a huge miss for Kirill Alexenko.
I think so as well.
Absolutely. And we can go to that moment, Yasser, where.
Right. Maybe there was a failure to really understand the position. He made a brilliant rook sacrifice. I have to give him all the credit in the world. This move, Queen E2, by Kirill, saying, hey, you want my rook? You can have it. But guess what? This bishop on C2, this bishop on A4 is out of the game. It's hitting C2, but that's all that's happening. And he played this so nicely right up to this moment. We were looking at a move like knight takes C6.
And Queen G4 ended up being actually quite a strong move.
Right, but he had to recapture with the queen.
No, taking on D4 with the pawn is fine.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah,
okay.
G6, and this was the key moment where Kirill just misses. Bishop takes G6, pointed out to me by Eric Rosen. Unbelievable move. And look at this following continuation. It's just gorgeous.
Okay.
You take on G6. I take on E6.
That's a Hakasito.
Hakasito. Queen E7 is the best move. There's other moves, but Queen C6 check. Now you have to defend that rook.
By moving the king.
And now the brilliant H5, blowing open the cover of the king. That if you take and rook E3, white wins.
That is
it's just winning.
Amazing.
That's astonishing.
A concept. You're even, You
just don't have a way to coordinate here. Black is lost in this position. Huge miss by Kirill Alexenko. He was given the opportunity to take on G6. Computer say completely crushing.
That's a beauty.
It's a beauty.
Oh my goodness.
2800 chess, Maurice, you were talking about it. These opportunities.
That is really
you give this to Fabio, you give this to Dingley, you give this to Magnus.
Oh, you're dead.
You're dead.
But if you give it as a tactical exercise, everybody
sees
it. But then, because they know, Maurice, that would have been sweet.
Woo! Woo! Bishop takes G6. That is a stunner.
By the way, talk about blowing a tournament open. You see Fabi dropping. You see
Kirill.
Nepo would have dropped.
Right.
And Grishchuk looking to put some damage on Wang Hao, also a leader in the same round. That would have been absolutely incredible. I think MVL's running out of there. Leave these guys behind with my draw. Happy with that. And we should point out this position after G4, A6 was played, and now the move H5. Look at how he's milking this position. Is Grishchuk. It's 31 moves, however, despite the fact that he's got these nice rooks, he's got the development against the pawn. Remember, it's the echoing yesterday as well. Wang Hao was the one yesterday.
The isolated queen pawn.
With the isolated queen pawn and the secondary weakness that he was going after as well against Giri. And we're seeing it here, trying to create another weakness is Grishchuk. He doesn't like just this. It's not enough. This knight is holding back the two rooks, just like yesterday. But hey, another weakness we're looking to create in the position so that you can stretch the guy's defenses. He might be solid holding one, but he can't hold everything. So that's what he's trying to do. The only minus is he is down after H5. It looks like King F7 was played. He is down to 153 on the clock with 9 moves to go. So, I mean, it's a stunning fact that Grishchuk is down on time. Wow. Who's ever thought of that storyline? But nevertheless, we know he's a tremendous blitz player, and he's going to try to make some moves and get going. I think he'll find H6, G6 as a natural move. He better find something, because at 156 on the clock, well, he did play A3. He said, let me not change anything just yet. Play this move A3. How many of those kind of moves will he find, however, in this situation? Still, if he wins this game, Fabi goes down, Wang Hao goes down, we'll find Nepo and Maxime clearly in first after the round, as they're both sitting at 2 points with the rest day tomorrow.
What a topsy-turvy.
With Grishchuk jumping up. That's right. Grishchuk will jump up into the lead.
And that is what I'm talking about. That is a wide open tournament.
Topsy-turvy.
I mean, what the
leader
huge
group.
difference if Fabi had won. That's
don't
a
even
completely
go there.
completely different event.
I just wanted to go back to this game of Nepos for a brief moment, because we didn't see the finish.
Yes.
We saw a gorgeous maybe.
Bishop takes G6.
Right.
Absolutely.
But when we had left it, we had more or less left it here. Kirill played King F2, covering the g3 square, making it awkward for black to double up on the g file, and just saying, go ahead, do something. What are you going to do? Well, Napo's thinking. He said, I don't really have that much to do. I'll try a5. And Kirill said, okay, I'll take that, and I'll take that. Give me that one too. No, said Nepo, this is my whole concept. I want to come down here, queen a2, I'm hitting a bishop, I'm trying to get at your king. And Kirill said, okay, I've got the answer. You go ahead and take my bishop, and I've got a perpetual check for you, all beautifully set up. And that was how the game ended.
That's a crazy game. Now,
it really was.
Really was.
Wow.
Yasser, you know I'm addicted to my phone. And
Yes.
I'm on social media all the time. And I've seen several posts since the game ended, basically saying if you can't find bishop takes g6, you just don't belong in this stage. How would you answer that?
Yeah, well, you put yourself in that situation, and if you find bishop g6, you know, you've got my respect. That's a great sacrifice. Seriously. I mean, I thought that was... Everybody sees the sacrifice.
Yes.
No question. You see the check to c6 and king f7. What
H5.
H5, that
star
quiet
move,
move, followed by rook e3. No, that's 2,800.
Yeah, that's
I
difficult.
mean, that is really difficult.
But on the other hand, this is the candidates. We're not looking for a good player or a great player. We're looking for the challenger of Magnus Carlsen. It's got to be one of these 8.
And the guy who plays that well at the moment, right? I mean, you come up with that concept, you're getting a lot of respect. That is just a nice game.
But wait a second.
Two draws.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
We are talking about this position, right?
Because bishop takes g6 isn't, there's rook g8 too. You've got to calculate. Oh, no, you can't calculate rook g8. Queen e6.
Queen e6 is threatened. Okay. But let's be real. First of all, you do have to, it's not bishop g6 you have to see.
It's h5.
It's h5.
Exactly.
All right? You see queen e6, you see queen c6. He's gotten there. I will say he saw bishop g6.
Right.
Immediately his brain went bishop g6. So you want to trash the guy? All right, first of all, he probably saw bishop g6. He then looked at queen e6, he saw queen e7, he saw the check, the king moves, and he probably thought rook to e3.
At once. Go ahead, put it on the board.
Right? So we're talking this position.
He got this far, no
He
question.
got this far. And he said...
Queen on c6, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I put the queen on the wrong square, my fault. Queen c6, king up, and he saw this move.
Everybody plays rook e3.
Everybody plays rook e3.
Yeah.
You say, I see rook e3. So now he goes, all right, so my attack is going to work with the rook here.
And the rook f6.
But what if he moves his rook over, let's say we make a move like this one.
Check.
And we get a check. We got to move our queen. And he moves his king.
Yep.
All right, now, where's my attack?
Right, I'm a
Where's
rook
my
down.
attack? I'm a rook down, my attack's dead.
Bishop's going to c2 especially.
Bishop's going to
Hold
c2, everything is
gonna
covered.
defend.
And I have no attack. I don't even have a move. Like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
All right, so let me go back. Something's wrong. All right, I'm right here. I played rook e3. He brings his rook into the game. I don't have an attack.
Right.
And by the way, you're seeing this all the way back from bishop takes g6.
Right.
You're not seeing it from this position. So you're looking at this position in front of you, and you're calculating from here. Takes, check, queen check, king moves. And now, by the way, even if you were genius enough, okay, I'm going to give you credit. So you found this, and you found this, and you found, sorry, why do I keep dropping the piece on that square? You found this, right? And then somehow you found this. Let's say you were genius to find this. Now you have to evaluate this sucker and say, actually, there's nothing. You calculated all through his h4s that might control a key square right here,
Yeah,
by the way.
Go ahead and try h4. Just put it on the
So
board.
you play h4 and rook f3.
King g7.
All right, the king moves. And now there's only one way to win this position, according to the engines. One way.
The rook f6.
Rook f6 is not it.
No.
Rook f6 is not it.
Surprise.
It looks like you should be crushing, right? The engine gives rook to c8. And looks like this should be good.
Just a draw.
But it's a draw.
What you got? What you got?
Just rook f6, rook g6.
Okay?
Exactly.
You got to go back and you got, like, come on, let's be real, folks. This is not easy stuff. Now, by the way, he has to see this from afar. In this position, because this move was played, he has to find this move. Thanks for giving me the square. I really want the G file.
If you're going to say h5, rook f5, I'm leaving. That's it.
I'm going to play H5, and now...
I'm booking my flight out of here.
Hello. Rook F6 is pretty good. That's the killer. Okay, you're finding all that. That's really good. I'm glad. You know what I mean? I'm saying it. Okay. All right.
looking for an exit.
So you're gonna tell me?
No, that's tough. That's really tough. That's really tough.
The guy's analyzing. He's got a candidates on the line. You wanted to sack the piece, play Queen C6, fine. H5, Rook E3, and against H4, fine. Rook F3, Rook F4. Come on.
No, that was a bit much. I agree.
Exactly.
Let's be real. And by the way, even after all that, Black, if wanted to avoid it, could have played Queen E7, and you
won a pawn.
You got your pawn. Sorry, my bad. You're a genius.
Right.
My bad. I'm going to castle on the next move, and we're going to keep playing, and it's tough. No way. Chess is hard, folks. Chess is hard. The engines can make it look really easy. Yes, I have an engine here. It's my job to have an engine to keep us honest.
Right.
All right? We're not going to pretend that we see all this stuff.
Right.
We don't. And we're going to miss lines. So we try to keep analysis and give you something instructive and the engine so that we can be real and we can be honest. Look. Chess is hard.
That was amazing.
Yeah, come on. Chess is hard.
That's pretty great, actually.
All right?
Yeah, I mean, it really was.
Astonishing, but that's engine stuff.
H4,
so it looks easy.
H5, Rook F5, what a concept.
Yeah, it looks easy, but it ain't. It ain't easy.
Yeah.
No, let's not analyze again. Hindsight bias is real, and when you look at it in hindsight, it's easy to say, "Oh, he should have played Bishop G5, Bishop G6, and he don't belong on the stage." Yeah, right. He's doing his thing, and he got a draw against Nepo. Let's see everybody out there pull that off.
I tell you,
that
it's
ain't
tough.
that easy.
No. Let's just quickly check in on the number 1, number 2 action.
Well, let's take a look. Both
Alejandro.
games that we have going on have reached move 40.
Okay,
So
they
no
made
longer
the first-
any time pressure for any of the players.
We had left it when Fabi had just sacrificed a piece, a desperate piece
for sure.
Sacrifice. But then we saw the star move, King G1, F1, getting ready to bring this rook on H1 that hasn't played any role into the game. And by the way, when it does arrive, it arrives with force. Fabi didn't find any move that was better than Queen D6, Rook G1, threatening mate in 1.
I mean, once White starts having threats, something went
One-
really wrong.
Yeah, White's material ahead, and it's White that has the initiative. Ruh-roh. Bishop B5, Rook E7, B3. By the way, that just shuts down.
Anything on the queen side.
Right.
The structure's stuck. There's no longer any Grunfeld type ideas of pushing the pawn. Even if there was, you're down a piece. I mean,
Exactly. You've got one pawn for a piece, and this knight on F4, for what it's worth, it doesn't have any body helping it. This looks
it's a lonely knight.
right. It
Doesn't do
looks
very
And the
much.
move,
completely
and
gone.
B3, by the way, was move 40. So
Yeah.
So he said,
I loved Lee making time control.
breathe. I made time
Remember
control.
what happened 20 moves into the game.
Yeah.
Ding was down to 16 minutes
left
on his clock.
That's
And I mean,
absolutely
He
right.
did a wonderful job. I mean, after
Crazy.
losing 2 games, coming here in such a sharp position, being able to just bring the thunder, just match the play, say, put the queen on F5, don't take any draws, just try to keep the game going.
Yeah.
He knew he needed to win this one, and he's done it.
but,
But
it's so easy to
let's
fold
add
your
let's
tent.
add the proper
Please.
narrative in between.
Okay, go for it.
You got the thing he did at the beginning and the position at the end.
Okay.
But there was some stuff in the middle.
Right.
All right. That stuff in the middle was, what the heck is wrong with Fabiano? I mean,
Yeah,
what?
H6.
H6, so a couple of waste moves.
Right.
Queen B6, Queen E3 looked good, but wasn't quite good. Should have played A6, B5 right away. There's some blame here. There's some blame.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And that blame is Fabi not playing the way he should have played. This could have been 2.5, half. Two in a row. Do you know what happens when Fabi starts winning games in a row?
I know.
We know what happens.
Yeah.
He could have won this game, and the tournament, the narrative would have been, Fabiano, that's
new
it.
streak.
Running
Fabiano
away.
lost.
New
Let's
streak.
go home.
That's it.
Yeah,
we know.
yeah.
Yeah, we can stop now. We don't have to keep playing because we know what this guy's going to do. What a disastrous performance by him. Give credit to Ding Liren.
for
By the
sure.
way, he's still at -1 after this win.
Right.
Presumptive win.
Yeah.
He's still going to be at -1. This doesn't mean it's a comeback time, but at least he starts the bleeding because -3, he literally could have packed his bag. I have a special request? Could I go home?
Yeah, exactly.
But so this is huge for him to make this play. But Fabi, that's the storyline. Fabi collapsing with a move like H6 and just playing weak chess and allowing his opponent to consolidate, and now is going to win the game. By the way, the rise of one player, Chinese fortune, is maybe the deficit of another. But take a look at the exciting news in this game. Rook E8, H6. Now A3 might be a tempo loss, we say, the same line as H6 versus in the Fabi game, because this move, by waiting just one tempo and allowing the move Rook to E8, A3, I'm just going back, allow this Rook to come on this file. You say, well, what's the point? Well, after he played G5, Knight E4 check appears on the board out of nowhere.
Wow.
The point being that now pawn takes allows pawn takes. The rook wasn't on the line without A3, would have been here, but now your bishop's hanging. There's a fork, E3. Thank you for the tempo. So A3 may have had this flaw, and I believe we have bishop takes after G5. Knight E4 stunner takes, and now rook E1 on the board. And he's under a minute on the clock to 12 minutes by Wang Hao, 4 moves to make. Boy, when you're in time pressure, anything could happen. In this case for Grishchuk, that quiet move A3, which, by the way, what is the real purpose behind A3?
I thought he was going to go bishop B1
B1
to A2.
Release
okay.
But
So
I thought if you do it the other way around,
Bishop B1 first.
Bishop B1 first, G5 is an actual threat, right? Because D5 is threatened.
Right.
That's what I thought. Also, it moves away from the Knight E4 idea because now your bishop's not getting hit.
Exactly.
So Bishop B1 was a more multi-purpose move, I felt.
Yeah.
A3, I get it. But Bishop B1 just seemed more logical.
No, A3 you get after you look at, you say, how do we justify A3? The same as when you see H6, you say, well, how do we justify this move?
Yeah,
right?
take away the G5 square.
Right, you need to give a reason. We're looking for a narrative.
Bishop A2.
It could be that he just needed to make a move.
That's also true. I mean,
I need to make a move.
Right.
And he makes the move. He makes a quiet move the way Fabi made a quiet move. And it turns out these 2 quiet moves will cost 2 points, potentially.
Release the lion's share
Well, maybe
of
it's
the
a point.
advantage.
Maybe it's a point and a half that it will cost, because a point for Fabi.
Well, a point for Fabi is very strong. I mean, we keep saying that Fabi had initiative. That's
He
great.
didn't have a win.
He never had a win.
No.
Let's be very clear about that.
Right.
Ding Liren was playing like a boss.
Yeah,
I mean,
amazing.
The guy.
No, but even if he draws, though, even if he just draws,
No,
I'm not
but
saying he had to win.
my point is that we've been saying Fabi, but at no point did Ding Liren make a mistake. I mean, he just kept playing amazing chess.
Right.
He kept, every blow Fabi took at him, he kept finding good moves, good moves. He reached a position where, okay, it was complicated, it was still complicated. And I think that even the Anish line that he showed us, that was still really weird. At no point was Ding Liren worse.
Exactly.
And even from a position where perhaps it was so complicated, who says that Ding Liren couldn't come back and still outplay him had Fabi played some of the better moves?
Agreed.
I mean, he just played like a boss. But yes, Fabi didn't follow it up.
It felt, if I can use a tennis analogy for a second, Dorkovic, he kept returning the ball. I mean, that was a great hit, Fabi. That was a really Dorkovic.
I think he's talking about the Serbian, not the FIDE president.
Not the FIDE president. But okay,
I know all of Serbia is sitting there like,
well. I was about to say, does Fabi have any chances? No.
No, what are you talking about?
I mean,
That's
it's
dead.
just dead.
No, that's dead. The question is this game right now. This game.
No?
That looks like just a draw if I take on F3, no?
This just looks dead. This move, regrettable loss of tempo.
Slips the advantage.
What another slip, and you can bet. Grishchuk is sitting there going, what is wrong? What the heck? Why did I play this move?
A3.
You can't just get in time pressure and get away with it. That's not every single time. Get in time pressure and get away with it. That's just a disease the guy has. His whole career has been built on that. And yet he's number 5 in the planet.
Right.
With this time pressure issue that he continues to suffer from.
He plays so well in time pressure.
The guy's such a freaking genius. I mean, he's a genius, and yet he always gets himself in time pressure, and slips like this will come. And now, of course, Wang Hao is going to be very happy, as his fortune is quite high as well. He'll draw the game, it looks like, and will still be
let's
tied.
take a look at how it might continue, because it's a bit sharp, right? You take on F3, looks kind of forced, otherwise you lose a pawn.
Okay.
Then Rook D7. If we can look at Maurice's board, that would be
King
fine.
F8.
King F8.
You
You want to take on E, because Rook C2 is a threat.
No. I wanted to take on B7. I wanted to analyze
Immediately.
Immediately. Take on B7 here. Well, we can look at it in your board, I guess.
All right, and check.
Okay, I'll do it on my board. We'll take on F3, check. It's kind of an echo thing that's going on here, right?
Yeah, you take on B7, and I was wondering about this endgame. You
Rook
play
C2.
Rook C2, and I play King F1.
Right.
I want to play rook b6 and say, okay, your stuff is kind of hanging. I'll play b4. I'm assuming there must be a way.
But what about your pawn on?
But this endgame is what I'm wondering. Rook c5, rook b6, you take on g... Well, if I do that, I'll take on g6.
And I'll take on...
You'll just take on b2. Just not enough pawns.
You're running out of
No,
the
just a
firewood.
Just a draw.
Okay.
Just a draw.
But you had another idea that you wanted to show. Sorry, I
No,
kinda spoiled
it
your
was rook
party.
takes b7.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No,
I
but
didn't
you've
mean to-
refuted it soundly.
No,
I'm
no,
convinced. I'm convinced this does look very dry.
Yeah.
Hopeless.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's A3. And again, the whole difference, and we were mentioning it, but I just really wanted to show it on the board, is right here. If you wanted to play A3 and bishop B1 and bishop A2, you were explaining to me, Alejandro,
Yes.
that you should start with bishop B1 and just sidestep
because I was
knight E4 ideas.
I'm very direct, and I was thinking now I can actually take on g6 and play g5, and that will capture a pawn on the next move.
Like if I
Why
play
don't you
B5.
take on, why don't you take on G6 right away and then play bishop B1?
and
Okay,
now
but
it-
what's the difference, right? Because you
Okay.
can't take on h5.
I think in any case, what we're talking about is black actually has to stop you with G5.
But I like keeping the pawns alive in this case because here I have an extra pawn on the h5 square. It makes the
Okay.
position a little bit wider. Bishop g6 might be an idea if black ever goes h6, and you probably will go h6 at some point. I like keeping the pawns alive.
Okay.
I don't like taking on g6.
Okay, so bishop
then you go
B1 at
A3.
1, and after G5, you just then want to play A3 and say, okay, now,
Pressure your pawn.
look, I've doubled my rooks on the
Right.
D file. Aren't I happy?
Okay, but what if he defends his pawn?
No, I'm not saying that.
Well,
you know,
okay,
I'm
let's
winning.
just go H6, bishop A2, rook C2. This is
We play.
yeah,
play on.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a game.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But okay.
We're going through on that line. I see that Juan Carlos has taken on f3, followed by rook d7 check by Grischuk.
Okay, just a second. Let me catch up with the game.
All of this, correct. And rook e1 takes on f3, rook d7, obviously only move king f8, and this is the current position.
Okay.
Well,
And this is where we're expecting rook takes b7. and-
although there are other moves, right? Rook e8 first should make some kind of draw.
Exactly. You can. In any case, it's connected with this idea that I'm going to take this pawn.
And he's
then-
playing rook h1, actually, threatening checkmate. Never a bad idea.
Whoa.
You never know if he'll miss it. Ah,
Rook h1.
yeah, okay, but
my
I think I
goodness.
can just play. Oh, I can't play king g8. You're actually going to double on the 7th.
Rook e7, rook e d8, maybe.
No, but rook. If you play rook d7, I'll play rook h8, and I just get a much better version.
Because you'll get the same situation,
But
but
your
then my
king-
king is way off on
Way
h8
off, right?
instead of on e8.
This looks unpleasant. I'm
Yes,
not sure
I-
it's
I-
bad, but
Why is
I-
that? Why is that unpleasant? I don't know.
Okay.
That's the kind of endgames you lose all the time, right?
I know, like that subtlety, the sudden shift to the king.
What do you play here?
No, you
I
take on
guess.
b7.
And the same rook c5 idea?
Yeah, but your king's on h8. I'm not so
It's,
sure that you're.
But
It's a difference.
But I'll play b4, rook g5, a4. The idea is that I'll play b5, and your king's stuck on. I mean, it might be a draw, but if I get b5 and you take, I play a5, a6, a7. You can't stop the pawn. So you have to play b5. You have to play a5. I'll play rook a7.
You're asking an awful lot out of White's
B5?
position. Your pawn down,
a5.
and probably rook b6,
Is it
right?
b6?
So
I'm asking you. Okay, it might be a draw. I'm not saying it might not be.
looks very
Yeah,
much like it.
You're
Okay.
trying.
But
I
I'm
know,
trying,
I
I'm
know, I know,
trying.
I understand. Wow.
King
Okay.
g8 was played instead of
Rook e7.
rook e7.
Okay.
And by the way, unless he has something very concrete, I'd rather not the guy having double rooks on the 7th and messing with me. I'd rather see your single rook endgame.
Right.
Maybe he's already evaluated this to be a draw itself with the rook on h8. I have another position.
By the way, the pawn on f3 is still alive. If black ever gets rook f8 and rook c2 check in the position,
We might see it because I think Grischuk has taken on b7.
he took on b7.
Yeah, instead of doubling. And if
And
rook f8, I'm sure that he has a great idea.
So it turns out, by the way, in this position,
Yes, please.
this position is drawn after this. There's no
Oh, with the rook on the 7th.
simple mating concept.
Right.
Okay.
This pawn is covered. You you can't just, you're always going to be in this situation. So a check, where are you going to put it? You're going to put it back here, because if you go here, you trade it off. You have to go back here, and then you can just go back
Exactly.
and say, how do you make progress?
I believe
So
the man has an engine. How am I going to disagree?
But this is typical, right? We've
Right.
seen,
Yes.
all of us have
Yes.
seen this
Sure.
zillions of times.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need an engine to tell you this is a simple draw. You
Right.
can't mate me, because you have to go check and move the rook, and then what?
And you're one file short.
Right.
I mean,
So-
you need to magically
You need-
you
you-
get me
everything
another
pushed
file.
over.
Actually, I think you need to be here already. You need to be standing here with your
Yeah,
rook.
that
Right,
kind
and King
of
H8,
thing.
Rook
And then,
E7 is actually
and then
dangerous.
this check, you have to go that way and not this way. So I don't think it's even a file issue here.
Right.
You'd need to have the rook all the way over. Oh, I didn't know I could do this. Somewhere over here. And then I could guarantee the idea. But like this, we've seen this many times. The two rooks by themselves simply can't do it.
By the way, just to interrupt you, Maurice, the last move of Grishuk, he made it with 9 seconds.
9 seconds.
What is it?
I mean, typical, I know. I mean,
Typical Grishuk.
Typical
he's
Grishuk.
usually down to
He's got one more
4, 5,
move
but
after
9.
this, but
Okay.
the rooks by themselves don't mate, and we know that, unless they were truly by themselves, like you don't have any rooks.
Right.
But in this case, you just can't do it just with the two rooks. On the 7th, Black has enough counterplay. If he gets this pawn, that's why he probably grabbed this pawn. If he gets this pawn, he'll be very happy.
I'm just looking at this position. Grishuk just took on b7, rook f8. I like pass pawns.
But rook F8, I think, kind of forces the rook to the 7th, and then we'll have a draw.
You better give me a perpetual check on your next few turns,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I mean, otherwise, because rook check.
Yeah, this is
And
coming.
that does seem like the end of the game, right? Rook
Exactly.
C2, King F1.
Rook check.
If Black tries to sidestep the draw with something like Rook F5. No, here I'll probably play Rook F5, right?
Yeah, you force maybe
Now
white.
you're forcing me to try to win.
Yeah, we're back again. We're back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something like King J8. That should be
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. We've seen
Right.
again.
Yeah.
We've seen this mechanism too often. There's no way to make progress here.
Exactly.
for either side.
Right.
It's just going to be a draw. Rooks are not enough.
You know, the most intimidating moment I saw in chess, you mentioned, Maurice, you got an engine. It was Roberto Cifuentes. He was playing in this man versus machine competitions in Aegon. And Roberto's in a rook and pawn endgame. He's a pawn down, and, you know, he's really suffering. And I'm looking. And Roberto makes the move that I wanted him to make. He plays the move, and the computer operator says, mate in 47. I said, Roberto, don't believe him. Don't be intimidated.
What was it? Made in how many?
Made in
47.
47.
What can you do?
I said, don't believe. Nobody believes you.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's not.
The operator also
Don't
says,
you hate
I
when that
encourage you to
happens?"
resign.
I just hate when that happens.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
guy tells me, you missed a mate in 40.
Mate.
By the way, Fabi did miss a mate in, what was it, 40?
In the World Championship.
The World Championship.
Yeah.
The engine screamed. Now, this one, Rook C2, many moves win, almost any move other than giving away a piece for no reason. And now Fabi's played the move Knight to E6.
Okay.
Hoping his opponent captures. Unlikely to happen, and did not. The move Queen back to E3. And you know things are bad when the engine suggesting your best move is Queen F4. When you're down a piece for a pawn and the engine says, trade queens.
Well, he played Knight G5.
Which, of course, is his idea when he played Knight E6.
And I'm sure that he has a great idea against H4.
We
H4.
all want to see what it is.
H4, the knight's going to drop back to this square. I mean, I'd say it was a
Pretty
great
sure that was
idea.
not his great idea.
It's got to do something. And
Rook
the
C6,
Rook
Knight
C-
G4.
I mean, this feels like a blitz game, blitz
Right.
mode for most of us.
This
right?
is just desperation.
I'm just going to go like this and like this and like this and like this. You're going to lose, right? That's really how it feels. You're down a piece for a pawn. You're defending your position now.
Right. You're on the back foot.
You're playing almost through inertia because you realize you're down a full piece. The same kind of finish that he had yesterday against Kirill, where he was up a piece and the guy should have resigned, and he embarrassed him with Queen H5.
Right.
He's kind of getting in that mode right now. Like,
Yep.
dude,
No, I
you're
agree.
down a piece. Maybe you should be resigning, but he's going to keep playing until he sees the writing on the wall. He's got to feel totally demoralized for what's happened. I think right about now, from Fabi's perspective, he's got to sit and go, I know, I screwed up. I got it. I did. This one's bad. But I'm going to be at 50%. It's a long tournament left.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. It's not a pandemic, folks.
Right.
Let's get it
Yeah,
real.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
That's
be
also
real.
not the end of the world.
Right. That's also not the end of the world. Exactly.
Right.
I've got 11 rounds, and I am the highest rated player in this competition.
Right.
I just
Let's
got to go
remember,
personally.
I mean, the guy started with 2 blacks.
As well.
As
As
well.
well.
I mean, you score 50% in the candidates from the first 3 games.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the way to think about it. That's the
You
way to
started
think
with 2
about
blacks, not the end of the world.
Right.
You placed number 2.
Yeah. But by
it. You
the
don't
way,
want to hear the data point, though, that nobody's ever lost this early and won the candidates.
That's right.
You don't want to hear that.
I've never heard that.
Michael
exist.
Tal. Michael Tal overcame
Tal
that
did it
deficit.
in a 28-rounder. In 14 he wasn't able to pull it off. But we don't want to hear that. But
Right.
still, that's
Right.
the way he's going to have to look at this. Bad day at the office, horrible day at the office, but I'm still at 50%. I'm not in a hole. The guy who beat me is still behind me.
Exactly.
I got a lead on him, so he's not partying in the streets just because he won a game. Let's be real. So it's still okay.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts going on in my mind regarding this game. The first one is that if I'm I meant the Fabi game. If I'm Rustam Kazimjanov and I'm sitting there going, dude, I gave you the greatest piece of analysis in the world, and look what you did with it. And if I'm Ding Liren and I, going to the candidates, said, Ding, I got really some great news for you. Give me the good news first. You're going to beat Fabi, the number 1 seed, in the 3rd round.
Nice.
Yes. That means I'm in first, right?
No.
I'm sorry. You're not going to be in
Tied
first.
for last.
You're not going to be in first.
It's a tough tournament, huh?
I know, exactly. You're not going to be in first. What? I get to beat the number 1 seed, and I'm not in first? Ooh.
But Fabi at 50% will be trailing the leaders at +1.
And let's just remind our
Right?
viewers.
Just by half a point.
By half a point. They're just at +1. They're not. Nobody is collecting points and running away with the event, so he's not sitting in isolation.
And we talk a lot about momentum. Tomorrow they have a rest day.
That's what I wanted to say.
It's a day
Everybody
to clear your
can
head.
think about what happened
What
in these
happened.
3 very eventful rounds to start the tournament. I mean, my goodness. And, just take stock.
It's a tremendous way to start a tournament. So many things happened in those games for all the players. I mean, Kirill losing 1 game, but having that chance against Nepo, he's going to have to.
Bishop G6.
Yeah, I mean, I know the guy's not going to not look at a phone, right?
Of course.
He's going to see all the comments. He's going to already has that pressure, playing in his homeland, playing all his fans, all his friends watching, and everybody's going to be like, well, Bishop G6, dude.
Right, yeah.
We have Nepo, who is pretty much playing his style. He's doing a very Nepo thing.
Right.
Running down his opponent's clocks, playing sharp, playing fast, not playing
Double-edged chess.
Playing double-edged against Giri, just doing a tremendous job. I think Maxim's also going to be happy with this tournament.
Right.
Converting against Ding Liren, also
Especially. Playing number 1, number 2 in the first 3 rounds and tying for first.
It's excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Giri having a not great event, obviously losing his first game, quite a blow.
Right.
Fabi just incredibly topsy-turvy playing, destroying Alexenko, having this prep, getting crushed. Ding Liren saying, I'm back in the tournament, let's take a day, focus, whatever was distracting me, it's a new event. I won.
Right.
Let's keep fighting.
Right. Other thing that really stands out for me is in these first 3 rounds, I think we're seeing it every round. Fabi's playing the most sharp openings. Doesn't matter if he's black or white.
Right.
He's not shirking from any kind of complications. In fact, he's trying to force a great deal of
I think he's going to get over it quickly.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get over it quickly. There's an old saying: you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Right? You come in with hack 'em, destroy 'em, stab 'em openings.
Right.
The guy has a knife too. He's going to stab back. And if we talk about the Mikhail Tal event that he won, I mean, he lost the first game, won the next one, lost again, won again. I mean, it's like back and forth. He had that topsy-turvy. He was at 50% after 5 rounds. And then with 2 losses on top of it. 2 losses. Now, you might have said, well, 5 draws, you wouldn't even talk to Guy. You'd say, oh, yeah, he's having a boring tournament at the moment. He could come back at any moment. This guy had 2 losses in 5 rounds, and then he started hammering 3 wins in a row, and then really put up some ridiculous numbers. So the reality is, this is a big result. As you pointed out, Alejandro, Ding Liren will feel better. He'd feel a lot better if he was at 50%. Right. But he'll feel better about himself. Like, okay, let's take this one game at a time. Fabi will say, okay, I retracted, but after clearing my head, I'm still Fabiano Caruana. And he will look and say, I mean, if you looked at this score, this is the current score in the tournament, you'd say, don't think about the fact that Fabi is going to lose the game. Just say this is the current score. You'd say Fabi's a half a point behind Nepo and Maxime. Okay, so what's the problem?
Normal position.
Normal situation in the tournament, right? That's what you say. You say, okay, what's the big deal? You'd see Ding Lorenzo and say, oh, he's got 0. That's pretty bad. And then you realize, oh, the games are pending. So Ding Lorenzo will move up to 1. He'll join a group of players at the bottom.
Right.
Fabi's half a point behind the leaders. Who cares? Like, this is no big deal. Let's be realistic. So that's the kind of tough mindset you have to have in a tournament. Don't let individual games upset you, especially round 3. Don't let that happen.
Yeah, easier said than done, right? It's still 11 rounds.
11 rounds to go with the rest.
We have more moves in the Brister game.
Okay.
So let's take a look at what transpired.
When we have left it, we have just seen Rook takes B7 by Sasha.
Rook
Check
C7.
immediately. Not Rook F8, but simply check immediately.
Seems to be
was played.
computer approved.
And Rook
H4.
4. Okay,
Oh,
that's
weird
intriguing.
place for the
Yeah,
Rook, right?
Like, okay.
Why not anywhere else?
Trying to understand that one, and well, they're still playing. I think it's a draw, 2 versus 2.
So 99% draw, right?
Yeah, I mean, some incredibly high drawing percentage. The whole idea of Rook H4 is any Rook check, I think, is intended to be met by Rook F4. That's the idea of Rook H4.
White will have all the optical pluses. I've got the rook on the 7th. I got the interactive king.
I mean,
I got the 2 to 1.
Alejandro liked those optical pluses.
But you have to try, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. White has all of them. White has all the optical pluses. But if we were to say, all right, listen, I got $100 on the draw.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of guys putting their wallets far away. Like, not my wallet.
A lot of guys walking out.
$100. You ain't betting on no winning this position.
No, not happening. Not happening. No takers. No takers.
And Fabi's made also a couple of, desperate moves. And
Okay, we left it here after H4, Knight F7. The knight is kind of doing a little pirouette.
I got $1,000 on white. Any takers?
Nobody wants your action. Nobody wants your action. Get out of here, Maurice. Queen C5, nice move. First of all, defends the bishop. Tempos against the rook. By the way, don't forget that rook takes F6 is on tap as well. So that's what we call the triple threat right there. The rook is hanging, the bishop is defended, and the pawn on F6 is hanging.
That's a resigns. That's a stop the clock move.
yeah.
That's harsh.
I mean, what move do you make?
No, I think it is
That's
time,
a stop the clock move right there.
Wow. Well, I mean, what can I say about Ding Liren? I mean, he had his back to the wall. He's coming into this game 0-2, and this guy's just dropping bombs on him.
Yep.
And he just
Fighting. He fights. He fights.
You
And
fight,
succeeds
you fight,
to
you
that.
fight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a great game. I mean, it's just.
This was a great game. This was a great game by Ding Liren. There is no other way to put it. Yes, Fabi. He fumbled.
You spoiled.
He fumbled.
Yeah.
Brought in the fire. Wasn't able to keep it lit.
Right.
But Ding Liren, I mean, he just played great chess.
He really did.
He did.
Wow.
You know the thing that this tells me. We talked about. We keep talking about it when we talked about Kirill. That when you're at a certain level, there are things that happen to you, even if you're a star player, but you're not quite at that highest level. And in the moments when you need to just find that move, remember when Fabi walked in after beating him and said, "Yeah, I like my position, but he should play knight f6 instead of bishop takes d6." Like the top players, this is how you fight back. This is what you do. Because when you're playing against 2800s, the fight that they put, I got the greatest prep in the world, guys. It's amazing. And what you get? A fighting position. Man, I thought I was better in the end game. And what do you get? The guy's still fighting. Somehow he manages to play something and this and boom, and the game ends in a draw. And you say, man, what does it take to beat these guys?
Right.
Their defensive skills, their mindset, so amazing, so tough when it's hard. That's what those 2800s do, and that's what you saw Ding Liren do today. It's very clear to him that he was getting punched, that he was wasting time on his clock, but that amazing mindset, I'm going to keep fighting, I'm going to keep fighting. He's got to find all the moves. It is compensation. That's clear. I'd like to have his position, not my position. I'd rather his, but I'm going to keep fighting and show me what you got. That is mindset, that's toughness, that's at 2800 level. How hard is it to beat these guys? How hard? Extremely difficult.
We just found out today, didn't we?
Extremely difficult. Do you remember when Magnus, we saw a little shot of Magnus there. Remember when Magnus had that position? Remind me of the number game guy. Alejandro, you'll remember. The game where it was a Sicilian, maybe it was
World
10 or 11,
Championship
World
match,
Championship match.
London?
When he was all over Fabi.
Maybe
Like all over Fabi with the black pieces.
Game one,
Game
game
one?
3.
No, the game ended in a draw. It was late.
All games ended in a draw.
Yeah,
No,
but it was
it was a
black.
late game. It was a late.
He could have played Queen G7 and.
No, not that game.
Oh, sorry.
Not that game, guys. It was a game where he had black. It was
Fabi had black.
Magnus had black, and Magnus had this amazing attack in the Kalashnikov.
In the last game.
Was it the 12th game or
It was
the
the
10th
12th game where Fabi gets attacked heavily and then Magnus weirdly offers a draw.
No. It's before that.
Game
it's before
10 or
that.
Game 8.
Okay. So I understand which one you're talking about. Where Magnus sacrifices a pawn on the queen side. Fabi can take it, but it's really, really dangerous. Is it that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Magnus has this amazing attack.
Right.
I mean, I remember hearing Judith Polgar, a quote later, she said, I don't even want to look at White's choices. I just love black.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. How is he going to survive?
Right.
It's Magnus with the black pieces. He's got a vicious attack. And Fabi played like a stone cold gangster, defended perfectly. Like Magnus was thinking, what the heck? Look at the position I have with all this attacking chances, all this play. The whole world was saying, oh, this is all black. Fabi looks like he's in trouble. And Fabi played so much like a defender like you wouldn't believe. He just stood there and said, I'm holding this fort. Yeah. What does it take to beat these guys? And that's what Fabi faced today. He had a great position and found out it's not easy breaking down that great wall. No. This is not easy.
Thank you, Maurice. I still remember the greatest piece of preparation ever. It was in the World Championship match between Vladimir Kramnik and Peter Leko. And Marshall Gambit, Vladimir Kramnik and his team, a huge team of players, top grandmasters in the world, prepared a piece of analysis that Leko refuted over the board. I thought that was just like
one of the
epic.
most storied novelties in the history of chess.
Epic. For those of you who are just joining us, we've still got 2 games in progress. We're expecting Fabiano to lose this game against one of the pre-tournament favorites, Ding Liren, and well, that just Ding Liren returns to the tournament with such a result.
Right. And meanwhile, the other game we're expecting a draw between Grischuk and Wang Hao.
Wang Hao, the 7th seed, surprising everybody by not only being tied for first coming into today's game, but potentially he could have been winning the tournament. He could have been a clear first had he won game 2.
Certainly an inferior position today, but yesterday, what a missed chance. Extra pawn, clearly winning position against Giri. Wasn't able to convert, but he's still up there. 2 out of 3 will be his start. I can't see him losing this game. He's already threatening a perpetual to begin things. So a fascinating start to the tournament. We're still going to have a bunch of leaders tied up there. We're going to have people at 50%, and it's going to be anybody's tournament still.
Exactly, and we do have a free day coming up tomorrow. Everybody will take a much-needed, like, where do we stand kind of thing, internal diagnostic, what has happened in the first 3 rounds. But this is what our schedule, Alejandro, looks like for the rest of the
those
event.
green bars are rest days, so tune in tomorrow if you want some kind of recap, but you want to go over some stuff that we've already done commentary, but there will be no transmission because the next game, Game 4, will be March 21st. That's on Saturday. And of course, Sunday we'll have on round 5. Then Monday we'll have round 6 and another break after that. That's going to be the schedule throughout the event. And remember, very, very unlikely to have playoffs on April 4th because there are playoff matches, but those only happen if the mathematical tie breaks are all equal, and that's incredibly
Very
rare.
unlikely. Yes.
Incredibly rare.
Maurice, back over to you because you want to make the point about that World Championship moment.
I just want to go back to it. I thought
Exactly.
it was game 10. It was game 10.
Yeah.
It's this one here. And remember, we were doing commentary on this.
Exactly.
The world was doing commentary on this. And we had this situation. Look at this position that Fabi had to face off against. You got pawns racing down the board. You got the bishop hitting the rook. The king looks exposed. A pawn's going to land on f3. This just looks like pain. Yeah, you got a pawn on a5. Congratulations. Who cares? This attack just looks so tremendous. And all the variations, it's just so delicious to analyze for black.
Right.
Like, this is who you want to. Do you really want? If I said, pick him, you can have white or black. Quickly. Like,
Give me black.
Give me black, please. I got stuff going. And it was in this situation he played rook g1, f3, bishop f1, a trade. The pawn got picked off in the middle. Look at these guys. It looked like he was raining down the board. And after queen to e6, Fabi still playing on this side, played this way, and bishop d8, queen e1, a trade, rook b8. Even here, the pundits were still liking black's position, but somehow Fabi managed to say, no, look at this. I'm going to get this going, traded off queens, and after d5, h4, rook c8, rook a3, he had his own play as well versus this position. You can see the rest of the game. You even better watch an old video of us doing commentary on this, and you'll see how much we liked black. But the engines kept arguing, we can defend, but a human to defend this?
Yeah.
Well, if you're 2,800,
right.
Yeah, it was what these players do. We see a shot there of the two players from
In
London.
London, yeah.
It's just hard to beat these players. That's why so many of the games end in draws. And when you get a great position, sometimes you end up losing, and that's what happened to Fabi today. Oh, well, what is happening to Fabi right now?
Shout out to
Exactly.
Leonard there. You can always see him in the chess tournament.
Leonard Otis, our man in Russia, and I thank him. I want to thank him for all the work he did, and for Anish Giri especially for joining.
And is doing for us right now because
And-
he's the one setting us up with those interviews.
Exactly.
Move was played, by the way. He did not resign. He played queen d8 and allowed the smashing rook f6
Oh, I think-
on the board.
I heard Rustem is going downstairs with a towel in hand.
Yes.
Stop, my boy.
He's taking too many shots. This is where we thought queen c5. That was a cruncher, as it does defend the bishop. It attacks the rook, and it unleashes a chance for rook f6.
He moved. He played queen d8.
Queen d8.
I don't like that. I don't
You
like
don't like
that.
psychologically that he's still playing?
That's right. Don't let the guy play rook f6 on you.
Yeah.
You know you lost the game. You know it's over. Accept it. Just take that inside. It's over. Don't let him actually play this move, this explosion in your position. I just...
I hear you, Maurice. But how many interviews have you given where the guy comes on and says, I saw rook f6 and I wanted to resign? He never resigned. And, of course he's not going to get
He's
the
made
draw.
another move, by the way.
He did? What happened
King
after
H8.
rook? What?
Well, he attacks the rook.
King h8. Okay, then I throw in the towel. Okay.
He might hang the rook.
What?
you think?
Well,
Maybe.
then you wanted an explanation. I gave you an explanation.
Okay.
And attacks the rook.
Stop
Wow. Okay, that's injurious now.
I'm
We
feeling the hurt just watching it.
Yeah, I mean, rook f5. I don't know. Just
that's any move wins, right?
any moves. But this is where yesterday we were saying about Kirill that okay, now is a good time. Don't miss your opportunity to resign. He might have missed it once or twice before he finally caught on.
Fabi's missed it for the last 10 moves.
That's what I'm thinking. Well, he definitely missed it for the last two.
How about the super embarrassing?
Uh-oh,
No,
here
he
it
played rook
comes.
f5.
He did.
Do not even talk about queen d4. I don't want to hear about queen d4 defending
Well,
the rook.
excuse me. Yesterday, Fabi played queen h5. Let's be clear.
Yes.
He didn't play queen takes g5
he
and
wanted
be
his
boring.
miniature.
He said, no, you should resign, and I'm going to play moves that make you feel real pain.
Right.
This
Not a
one,
bad, though.
that one would have been
Yeah, those are hurt feelings.
Those are
I
the hurt
agree.
feelings. Keep making moves, and I'm going to keep playing moves like
Right.
this.
But rook
F5,
F5,
of
good
course, is
enough.
Naturally good enough.
Yeah. Wow. Oh boy.
More than good enough.
Yeah, I was about to say. Oh, okay. Enough said. Our draw game between Grishuk was the double rook ending.
Well, it's Grishuk. He'll play for another hour, so.
Oh boy.
Hour? Can he really? I mean, he's
How can he
facing-
possibly keep this game going?
Well, he's been thinking on this move for how long? 12 minutes. After
That's
rook
an indication
F5.
he's not ready to abandon his
right.
winning hopes.
Why not?
Why not what?
Why not think?
What could you be thinking about here?
By
What are
the
you
way-
talking about?
By the way, did you guys see the interview yesterday he gave at the press conference? Grishuk is always good for
I
a press
saw it, I
conference.
saw it.
mean,
Yes, absolutely.
Where he's talking about his game with Nepo is like, he's sleeping during the game.
Right.
He kind of woke up and I only had 6 minutes, so I had to go here. I didn't really want to play for a win. I just, like, what, Sasha? I mean, my goodness.
He's great.
He really is. And
a
then it was
personality.
accompanied by a picture, too, where Grishuk really did seem to be some very, very nice meditative state.
Well, at some point yesterday, I don't know exactly what happened, but Nepo did something. Grishuk talked to him during the game, and then he closed his eyes. I actually don't know.
He spoke with him?
Yeah, I have no idea what actually happened.
Wow. Okay.
Also, there was a great picture of them. Maybe we can get that.
Doing
for the
the
folks.
elbow waggle?
Yeah, the elbow bump.
Yeah.
Right at the start of the game. One of those,
But then did you see how they finished the game?
No.
With a handshake.
No.
Yes.
but that's the thing,
and
you
we've got a
forget.
picture of that because you forget.
You completely forget. You're like, it's
Right.
like a mechanism. Now you finish and you
Yeah, well done.
well
nice
done.
play.
Nice play.
Okay, but
You totally
listen,
forget.
Listen, I don't think there's a problem with a handshake itself. The act of a handshake doesn't cause you to get sick, right? Mm-hmm. It's what you do with this hand
thereafter.
once it's already executed the shake. So if you got,
You're contaminated.
you got like 20,000 viruses on your hand. Make sure after one of those things where you shake a guy's hand and then you. Okay, don't do that. You shake the hand and then you say, "Wipes, please."
Arbiter.
Arbiter, make sure. And I'm sure the arbiters are ready, boy. They saw that action as soon as he walked off. Sprit, sanitize.
Right.
Be wise, sanitize. And
There
we're
we go.
making light of it. It's serious, though.
Yeah.
I don't think I think a handshake is not a problem as long as the very next act is I got my sanitize. I'm not trying to be mean to you or insult you or anything, but I got to sanitize because I don't know what
Right.
the situation is.
Okay.
Also saying that, by the way, I mean, I hate bringing this up. It just sounds a little bit morbid when you think about it, but they are moving each other's pieces, capturing each other's pieces. Right?
Exactly.
So
I thought the same thing.
right, if your hand touches the piece,
And
that's
you
the same-
captured-
that's on a hard surface, and then
Right.
I capture that piece. That's in my hand. So
That's like shaking
you
hands
got to be
right there, right?
sanitizing, right? I mean.
I'm thinking they're the cleanest pieces in the world.
Okay, the pieces
before
are
and
clean
after.
pre you making a move.
Right.
So I guess I mean I can argue that you sanitize beforehand. Obviously they're sanitizing beforehand. The pieces are clearly very clean. So you sanitize beforehand. You make the moves, so you're touching the pieces, but I figure your hands are ultra clean. But no matter what, I'm still going to clean my hands. I mean that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is wash your hands often,
Often.
and you should be washing your hands
Especially
often.
No,
Everybody
especially for
should.
these guys. Especially for these guys doing what they're doing.
I am assuming that everybody there is washing their hands off, and I assume
sure.
there's some guy in the tournament hall whose only responsibility is the game finishes.
I figure
Wipes.
they got like industrial bleachers, coming in, like they do on the airplanes and just wiping
Absolutely.
everything
They're
down.
all over and taking temperature twice before the game, after the game, making
Well,
sure.
it was actually kind of funny that Thabby had caused, a politician to be alerted because he had a 98.7 instead of a 98.6
Which is
temperature.
really strange.
And then Maurice, you shocked me by saying, well, 98.6 isn't the new mean
I didn't say
anymore.
that. Alejandro said that.
Sorry, because we were all looking at the smartphone. Talk about that.
Well, I'm not a medical expert, but I saw an article that claimed that the average human temperature that's considered normal has dropped over the last 10 years, or ever since we had this.
97.9 in.
Or we've had it for more than 100 years.
And we had it more than 100 years, but recently.
There we go.
There's
there we
the
go.
elbow
There's the
bump.
elbow at the
There's the
beginning
elbow.
of the
Very, very politically correct, very woken. Everybody knows what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I was
And
woken
then,
until but I
40 moves later.
I can't stop looking at the man bun.
The man bun, yeah.
He's
love
had
it.
that for a while. so
That's just.
That goes
that's
back
his-
to Croatia.
We saw him in Croatia with that from last
Exactly.
year. But this is the new reality, of course. Chess players respecting that.
Yep.
These good friends. I think they're good friends, but
Is he his drug?
is his drug or not? I don't know. A Russian word for real serious homeboy. By the way, he is not being treated like a drug right now. Is Fabiano Caruana? He's continuing to play the rook took and went back, played rook c7.
Bishop c6.
It's very hard to imagine. Oh, and he's played a4. So he's looking for some.
Well, if you take with the bishop,
If you take with the bishop, that would be a small
What?
problem. Take with the bishop, yes, indeed. But in the meantime, there's just so many disgusting things that could happen to you. And he sees the pawns. I mean, literally, I can give
He's not
100 to
willing
1
to
odds
accept this.
in this one. But somehow, in his mind,
Exactly.
like in my mind, it's better to stop, like collect myself. Okay, this is just a loss, no problem,
Right.
and I leave out of here. I would have already processed it during the game.
Yeah.
that was something I made sure I always did during the game. When I realized I'm going to lose, I'm not walking away from the board depressed. I'm gonna sit there and say,
I
okay,
made peace.
but I think the
Okay,
piece
I've
must
lost.
have already been made. I mean,
You know-
hope was lost.
right. So.
Ages ago.
But
right?
so after that, then it's just a question of when do I resign? I see, man, this is a good time to resign. So when I resign, it's like, okay, you got it, and I walk away, go deal with it, like, go think about the next game. But it seems Fabi is saying maybe he's made peace with it. He's like, yeah, but if I resign, I lost. So what if I just make a few moves until it's truly over? I've already made peace with this fact that the game is lost. But let's make a few moves. What if the guy blunders? Nobody ever won a lost game. I won a game
By resigning.
By resigning. So what if I just make a few more moves? So maybe his mindset is he's already made peace with it, but is just continuing to play just to see.
Okay.
So he's not feeling any worse that the guy's bashing him in the head continuously, right? Because that's what I'd be worried about. I'd be like, oh, another hit. Oh, and then another one. Oh, you got your belly. Oh, it's to the chin. No, I wouldn't want that to be happening to me. But Fabi's like, no shame in just playing on some more.
Okay.
Okay, we have a couple more moves in the Grishuk game, which.
Sure.
Okay, they're moves.
This is the 4-rook ending. I've got to go sort it through. They're just looking at that Fabi game. Oh,
And
okay.
after-
That was the perpetual. We left it with the
and
perpetual
Grishuk
being
said, no
set up.
perpetual, rook d4, that covers because rook e3 you have king f4,
Right.
which is
Just
exactly what happened.
let me point out what the perpetual is all about. Is that it kind of goes like this. That I will continually harass the king, but now that so what Grishuk did instead was now any check along the third, he's going to drop up, but that Wang Hao said,
Okay.
you don't have a perpetual, but you don't have a pawn,
Well, rook d6 was played.
threatening the pawn on g6.
Can't really defend that guy. Wang Hao threw the rook back to a1.
Oh, he didn't play g5 check. Okay, sorry. He
A1?
played rook a1 instead. Okay.
Yeah, rook g6 was played.
Okay.
And then he played the move king h8.
Come on. This is
Pretty dead.
Yes.
There's
And,
just not enough
there's
material.
Nothing.
Right.
No help. No
The
way.
rooks
You
alone is never going to mate. Yeah.
And there you go.
Okay.
So definitely that.
And I think we are actually finally going to get a perpetual because rook h6 was played, rook king g8, rook g6,
Yes.
and okay, this is.
This is a good time to give it a
I
rest.
think somebody should tell them they can offer a draw after
After move 40.
It is allowed.
Okay, because that is the whole point. The players up to the first time control, the first 40 moves are forbidden to offer a draw. Of course, through a perpetual check or a repetition, a draw can be agreed, but it can't be offered. And that will mean that our lone remaining game is this game where, unfortunately for Fabi's fans, he's way behind in material, and he's been lost for quite a number
He's
of
down a
moves.
bishop and a pawn in this position.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of material.
Also, his position's not very good.
And he's got no counterplay. He does have this B pawn though that maybe the guy might sleep on. Looks like Ding Liren is paying attention to it. Just played rook to G3. I imagine B2 will be met by the very straightforward rook B3. And
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
Unless you can come up with some miracle of miracles. Just
No.
what I'm hoping to see is, you play blitz, you think I'm going to have a trick.
yes,
Right? I'm hoping to see something that looks like a trick.
right,
But I mean, you're playing Ding Liren. He's the type of player that won't allow you to create a trick.
right.
He has his position so much under control that you just can't, out of nowhere, create a trick. Right?
I found a trick. You ready for this trick?
Okay.
It's the dumbest trick you've ever seen.
Okay.
Watch this trick.
Here it comes.
This is pure ridiculousness.
Let's
You're
do
going to
it.
refute it easily because I already see what's wrong with it. Okay. But I'm going to show you this dumb trick. This is a blitz game trick. So where are we? We're here. I'm not going to play B2. So the other game is ending a draw. I play this move.
Okay,
Okay? You take.
yeah,
I take.
right,
You take my pawn.
Okay.
You ready for the stupid trick?
yeah,
I take.
right. I take with the king. of
I know
course.
you can take with the queen. It's a small point.
No, I
you take with the king. You take.
Oh man,
Oh no, I lost my queen. And here's the funny part.
you're lost.
You're still lost. You did it. I even took with the king.
Man, that bar didn't even flinch. It didn't even say you lost this much of your. Didn't even flinch.
Like,
Plus 17 is
I'll give you your trick. I'll see your trick and do you one better.
Oh, man.
I'll take with the king and let you get it. And you're still. This is how bad it is.
That's
that the
bad.
guy can play that move and give his queen back. So yeah, it's bad news. It's bad news. Rook G3. We're
Brutal.
sitting on this position.
Okay, and by the way, a draw once again has been agreed, so that does mean that Wang Hao is sharing the first place, our seventh seed, continuing to impress.
Yes, and we are just waiting for the handshake, really, or elbow touch between Ding Liren and Fabiano Caruana, because this is done.
Exactly. 4 players enter today's competition tied for first. After today's competition, 3 players will be tied for first.
One gets knocked down just a bit. Fabi with 1.5 points, and he'll remain there. Meanwhile, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Wang Hao will have 2 points after their draws. Grishuk is still on 50%, being the only player to have all draws in the tournament so far.
Solid.
Anish Giri and Kirill Alexenko have 2 draws each and have lost a game, therefore putting them on 1 point. And Ding Liren will be joining them as the only player so far not to have drawn a game. All decisive for him, but a negative score 1 and 2. He'll have 1 point after today in, well, just a second, we assume, but we've been saying that for half an hour.
Yeah. But before we go into the rest day of the 12 games that have been played in the first 3 rounds, we've been treated 5-5 decisive games out of 12.
And interesting, even the draws have not been dull. I mean,
Well,
a couple of
today's
them
draw
have been.
with Nepo.
No, they're fascinating. Absolutely
that
fascinating.
sacrifice, Bishop
Could have
takes
been a win if he had
G6
found
would have been
Bishop G6.
Well, the
one
one
of the
foul draw
gorgeous.
against Giri.
That's right.
I mean,
could have also
could
been a
also
win.
Also would have
ways.
been very interesting.
Yeah.
Even the Giri game today, it was something that was obviously in the back of our minds relative to the other games going on because it didn't capture our interest the way that
Right.
Fabi's position was,
Precisely.
Alexenko's position was. But that was actually an interesting game in its own.
No question about it. And I'll go back to my hotel thinking that end game, I really have the feeling that, MVL was given a pass.
A little bit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like Anish might have been able to press today, and he didn't.
He didn't. No, it also felt like some of the variations that Anish was showing after Bishop B5 instead of playing Bishop E2.
Now they were intriguing.
Those were fascinating, where he
Right.
sacrificed the bishop, threw a pawn forward, got the
F5,
initiative.
F6, yeah.
It felt that game left a lot on the variations rather than on the board.
Yeah, he left a lot on the table. I mean, I
Yes.
want to put it like that, and I agree. And Anish was, again, he was kind of berating himself that he didn't play Bishop B5. Yeah.
No, I like the Bishop B5. That
would have been nice.
That would have been really nice.
And again, we want 1 game remaining. We've had a very, very eventful round. This 1 game remaining was just a remarkable game because of an incredible piece of preparation on, I don't even know how to describe it, on the 3,000 level, as in a very standard opening, the Slav defense, the semi-Slav defense. Fabi came armed with an entirely new concept. He played the novelty E6, E5.
It's amazing.
Which put Ding Liren on the back foot, and Ding Liren was just spending all kinds of time to withstand Fabi's assault, and Fabi was just dropping bomb after bomb after bomb. And the amazing thing was, with like 20 moves left in the time control, Ding Liren was down to a mere 15, 16 minutes, and then something very shocking occurred. Fabi didn't follow up his prep. While we were singing his praises and saying, you know, like he's doing really, really well, Anish came on our show after his game, and he cited this move as well as we ourselves, like H6. What's that?
It doesn't belong.
Right.
When you have such an attack, it just feels strange because it's a basic mistake, right? You have under the initiative going on, you need to keep that pressure up.
That dynamic, yeah.
And H6 gives such a crucial tempo.
There was this wonderful, I was raised with a Soviet annotation, the Soviet way of annotation. And the Soviet way of annotation was H7, H6 question mark. It doesn't fit the needs of the position. Okay. And we were looking at Queen B4, like let's hit that pawn right away. We were looking at A7, A6, B7, B5, something very explosive. We're looking at Rook E5 that fit the needs of the position. And after this, like, single loss of tempo...
You look at the entire game,
Yeah.
and you tell me, what did H6 accomplish?
With hindsight, not anything I would take pride in.
Nothing at all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and by playing just really, really careful, good, solid moves. And by the way, I thought that this was particularly impressive. I think a lot of people in time pressure would have played Queen G2, gain a move or two on the clock. No, Ding Liren says, no, I got you. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, he knows what's up.
I'm moving my queen. I'm playing knight F2. You're busted.
You got nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. And Fabi said, okay, I'm going to set up some kind of desperado. Ding Liren said F3, F4, nobody believes you. And, you know, go ahead, make your desperado sacrifice in this very,
nice,
to me, a star move.
King F1.
King F1. I mean, that just is so...
That really seals the deal.
Right.
And ever since then, it's just been a bunch of moves that...
It's all been good. It's just downhill sailing for, and B3 too. I mean, that just really kind of clinches it. Just, again, a lot of just very, very good moves.
We have a couple more moves on the board.
Okay.
From where we left it.
Right.
I think after,
Here we start thinking to ourselves, throw in the towel, and
Rook
we saw the move Rook G3.
Yes, Rook G3, B2.
Okay, sorry, I have to refresh my board.
There you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
We saw Rook
G3, B2, Rook B3, Knight D6 takes, Rook takes B2, Queen F4, which I actually don't see what it threatens. I guess Knight E4.
Knight E4. Maybe
It's
on a good
not
day.
Even sure that's a threat.
Yeah, I understand. And we've caught up to the players?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And Ding Liren currently thinking, what's the best way to finish off this game?
Right.
Sure, he has
94 looks like the Rook
B8 and Queen C2, right?
Rook B8 and Queen C2, and all you can do is
Take on F2, but
resign.
yeah. So it's not a threat.
I mean, obviously we can, count the material and sit there and say, well, isn't white like a bishop and 2 pawns up? But I suspect that this isn't just a +5 on the engine's part. I think it's probably much more even than +5.
I mean, come on, this is...
I mean, a strong engine will probably start
This is like
announcing.
+40, probably.
Yeah.
Really?
What is the point of moving? This is over.
This is
There's
really,
no way to
really, really
evaluate
bad.
this there's no reason to evaluate this from a material
right.
standpoint.
Yeah, the algorithm starts breaking.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so bad. It might start catching some smoke.
Yeah.
We calculate death.
I watched Ben Feingold. I was playing in the U.S. Championship, and it was a time trouble, and I was winning, and it was just getting better and better. And finally, we reached time control. My opponent resigned, and Ben Feingold had said that after the game, Yasser, he had put the game into the Fritz engine and played it through, and I was plus 37. He said I had never seen plus 37 before. I mean, it was the old engines, the Queen's being worth 9 points. I mean, that's a lot of plus. This looks like a lot of plus.
All you have to say was Fritz.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen the Fritz engine in like years.
Really? What do you think of the Fat Fritz? I mean, I'm not a computer expert, but I've heard really good things about this
Fat
cloud.
Fritz, it's pretty interesting. It's basically a Leela type of engine in that it doesn't calculate the way Stockfish. It's not. They're not really self-taught.
Okay.
But the way they analyze is that they play each other. It plays itself millions and billions of times.
Right.
To figure out which paths it should take and which paths it should eliminate.
Okay.
Similar to Leela, it tends to be pretty optimistic about its chances.
Right.
Sometimes it's overly optimistic in endgames that other engines consider to be quite equal, but it does come up with some very interesting ideas, some unusual ones. So right now we have Leela and Stockfish, I think, are at the forefront commercially available engines, and probably the strongest ones as well. But besides that, there's still some other engines that are interesting.
So you're saying like that Fritz has like an arrogance factor?
It definitely has an arrogance factor.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
there's a lot of engines that had that. Actually, a lot of grandmasters really didn't like Stockfish 10. And the reason that Stockfish 10 was really shunned by the community is that they didn't know it came with a new value called contempt.
Oh.
Contempt is exactly what it sounds. It's an arrogance value.
Right.
It's saying my side to move is better. And the reason it gives it like an inflated evaluation, the reason being that to play other computers, to play on and not force so many perpetuals, not force so many draws, not accept so many threefold repetitions.
Right.
It had this arrogance value to say, I'll play on because I'm playing.
Right.
I'm
Stockfish 10.
Right, and it came with this little detail.
Contempt.
But if you set it to 0, then
It's fine.
It's fine. Like it just continues as normal, just stronger than its predecessor. But people thought, oh, it's wildly changing its opinion all the time. I hate this engine.
Right.
And
that was what it was.
that was what it was. Yeah.
Okay. And I had that dollop of contempt.
By the way, speaking of contempt, I mean, there could be some gamesmanship going on here. I think there's clearly some gamesmanship. We're saying Fabi resign, but let's get in his chair for a second. He knows he's lost. He knows it's been lost for a while. He knows there's probably 1 in a million chance of a trick coming out of this position. And maybe it's going to be some ridiculous number. That's if you run the simulation against Ding Liren 100,000 times, there's going to be 909, like some ridiculous 99,986 times when the game ends in a win, and there's that 14 somehow where a rock falls in his head, or
Right.
he trips on the way to the restroom and busts his mouth. I mean, something ridiculous, right? Okay, most of the time he's going to lose. Is it possible though that he's thinking in a fitness way as well? I'm just throwing things out there, guys. Is it possible he's thinking, if I keep playing, that might irk the guy, work the guy, right? Make him lose a little something when he felt I should have resigned a long time ago, but he's still making moves. Is he trying to throw him off for the future in any way? Because obviously the present, he's going to lose the game. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something else at work here other than just inertia. Inertia we could have explained 5 moves ago, 10 moves ago. This is not inertia right now. He can't just be playing. It just doesn't make any sense. It has to be some rationale he has. I don't know what he will use, but there's got to be a reason why he's still continuing to play in a position that is clearly beyond lost.
Yeah, beyond. Jump in here. Alejandro, what do you think's going on?
It's a tough opponent for him. It used to be somebody that Fabi was comfortable on. He had a 2-0 score against him with a bunch of draws.
Right.
Now it's turned. This is the moment it turns the tables.
It was 2-2.
It was 2-2, and this is now the 3-2.
Was it the Sinquefield Cup where Ding Liren won this really beautiful game
nice
against Fabi?
Against Fabi. That was a beautiful game.
This is the third win in a row of Ding Liren against
With
Fabi.
draws and thrown in.
Which draws?
You mean just 3 in a row?
3 in a row. I might be mistaken about this, but I think it's Norway in middle of the...
This was the lifetime coming into today's
tournament.
round, and you're saying that basically Fabi, through their junior days, was a 2-0.
Not even
Not
that
junior,
days.
not junior.
They're different. They're not that different generation, but they didn't play that much as juniors.
No.
Okay,
they didn't play it.
sorry.
Yeah, but I think it was Norway was middle of the year.
Yes, May or whatever it is. Yeah,
I think it was June.
April, May, June.
June.
Okay.
Then
After
it was
Zagreb.
It was after Zagreb. That's the important
Definitely
part.
after Zagreb.
It was
Sinquefield.
And then
Sinquefield.
Sinquefield Cup. Then there were no classical
classical
tournaments
events between
after
them.
that.
Right.
and now it's this one.
Wow.
So 3 in a row.
I might be forgetting some draw, maybe in one of the Grand Chess tours. I'm trying to get my
No,
timeline.
there can't be any draws, but in not classical chess.
yeah.
No, they
not
had
in
the
Blitz,
they had the Rapid and Blitz, but
Showdown.
No, not counting
Okay.
the Rapid and Blitz. We're talking
Right.
classical chess.
Yeah. Then-
Norway was followed by the Sinquefield Cup.
in that case, that's 3 in a row. This is the third
this is the third.
Ding Liren victory against Fabi in a row. There were no draws.
Because he didn't play in Tata Steel, did Ding Liren.
No.
Wow.
And Fabi didn't play in the Grand Chess Tour finals or anything like that. And
Right.
before that, there were just the Rapid and Blitz events.
Yeah, 3 in a row.
Did
Ding Liren's become a very,
Wait,
very
what
difficult
about-
opponent for Fabi, clearly.
they didn't play in the World Cup?
No, I mean Fabi didn't even play the World Cup.
Probably didn't play the World Cup. So the Grand Swiss, no. Should
No,
be.
Ding Liren didn't play with Grand Swiss.
So that's 3-0.
Yep, 3-0. I mean that's a big thing, right?
That's a very big thing.
That's a start of a big thing, for sure. But definitely
Right.
within one calendar year, beating a player 3 games, the 3 classical games that you played with no draws.
Especially when you're number 2 and number 3 in the world.
Right, it's a big deal, and somehow he seems to be having problems with him and Wang Hao. Because Wang Hao is also 5-0 against Fabi.
Yeah.
Yes, we say that it's junior days and stuff like that. They haven't played in a while, but it's not like Wang Hao is 10 years older than.
Exactly.
He is older, but not.
Generational.
Generation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
But I do
By the
remember
way-
Nepo having a lead on Magnus. Magnus was having a difficult opponent in Nepomniachtchi. And we saw some changes.
Wait, but that was like one game, right?
Yeah, so I don't think you make too fine a point about his being weaker than a player. No, you got yours. I had 2-0 on you. Now you got me back. But I don't. But that doesn't explain this game though. Right now,
Like, why is he still playing?
why is he still playing? Because it's not going to change the fact that he's going to lose the game.
And by the way, we just have another move too. After Queen C2, there was a Rook B8 check. King came to H7 by Fabi. Queen came back to C2.
Yeah, this is the
if you
current
were
position.
thinking
Current position.
about capturing this pawn or maybe even capturing this pawn, watch out. E4, E5 check is on tap.
Yeah, I put
with
Queen
it
E5 on my board
discovered.
because I can't see what else you could be dreaming of.
And then he plays Queen E5, and then it's sort of like.
Well, he hasn't played it yet. I had it on my board just.
Oh, you had it on your
just
board.
because I can't see what else you would do.
Okay, well, exactly. The alternative being resigns. But Queen C2, and I saw Queen E5 on your board, and I thought, like, why would you play a move like Queen E5 and
If
keep
only
playing
your
on?
rook were somewhere. That C7 rook.
Where?
Yeah,
Just
C1.
somewhere.
Like on
A3.
C1.
Where
like
then
on
what?
C1.
I want it on A3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want it on A3. Could I put it on A3?
For free.
Okay.
Just just put it on A3, and
Okay.
then I'll play Queen E5 and ask you to beat me.
Okay, what will you
With pleasure. I mean, I'm up a piece of two pawns.
I know.
Oh,
beat
you're
me or
right.
so
You don't
beat
think
me.
I'm capable? I mean, you put the rook on A3, and then how does that help?
I just want it on a square. Give me a square. I'm
Okay,
not
you're
saying
thinking
it saves
C7
me.
was super
Just give me-
passive.
the rook is on C7. Just put. I'm not even asking you for C1.
Exactly.
C1 gets me all kinds of good stuff. I just want to have an active piece.
Right.
But I'm trying to highlight the fact that this rook is like wondering what it's. It can't even go to A7 and make anything happen
Right.
because the bishop is defending. So where are you going to put it? I just want to put it
I
somewhere.
guess F7.
F7 actually F7 is not so far away.
So
F7
Queen
is-
E5,
So if I
maybe
get
he's
Queen
thinking-
E5 and you make some kind of random.
Right, A5 maybe it's random, but I would
A5 doesn't look
probably
that
play
random.
Rook F8. I'd probably
Yeah,
play
Rook
Rook
F8.
F8 and just shut you down if you were even thinking.
I am
about
thinking
Rook-
of it. Of course I'm
mean,
thinking of it.
Slap yourself for thinking that you might even get an active move
Why are
on
you
these.
so mean?
I know.
Can I get an active, just one? You got so much material. You're
know.
not going to give me at least one active move?
He made a move.
He did?
Yes.
And it was?
Rookie 7.
You got somebody.
He looked at Maurice. He said, "You know what?
I'm feeling it.
I'm feeling that this rook needs to go
The
somewhere."
rook has
active."
to go somewhere.
And I'm assuming that after e5, he has a fantastic idea.
Knight
Like
f5 will be
f5,
only.
Rook f8, and then now after g6, he has a threat.
I'll eliminate your threat. Oh,
Actually,
I know,
now that I'm
I
thinking
know.
about it, I'm not really sure it was a threat.
I know. It's just so bad. So e5 check, knight.
Well, he hasn't played
F5,
that, but
e6. Well, no, rook f8 is not also required.
all right.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, just,
We rarely, by the way, this is rare that we
For
see.
us, yeah.
For us as commentators, that we ever see positions like this.
That was
I can't-
overkill, yeah.
I can't recall a time.
right.
I can't recall a time.
We've called a lot of dead draws and
In
that we keep on playing.
fact,
We're kind of used to those.
Dead draws
just-
we're used to. I don't think I've ever, in the history of my commentary, seen this kind of disparity of material in a classical game.
And they're still playing.
and the player continued to play.
And
I
it's
don't
not like
think-
a time pressure. Where
no,
they're
nothing.
both
There's-
running out
No,
of
the guy has
time.
plenty of clock time.
25 minutes.
Right.
I don't think I've. Have you? I don't think I've ever. Forget about even commentary. I don't think I've seen this in my history as a player, with playing alongside other GMs and.
I must have seen it, but you're making a good point. I wanted to go the other way and say, our good friend Peter Spidler, if anybody, has been guilty of premature
Peter Spiller would have resigned after he was down to 2 points. I'm kidding. I love you, Peter. Don't kill me.
Exactly. So I mean, we're talking
Right.
about premature resignation, not Okay. Sorry. Do we have
E5?
those
Yeah, we have
Knight
e5
F5
and knight f5 more or less as predicted.
on the board? Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Well, d6 looks kind of tempting because you
I
queen a
will
pawn.
go d6. Yeah.
And there's
Because
no
if
threat,
rook
right? So
takes d7,
kind of promote
and
a pawn.
again, the knight is don't reach for the knight and think you're going to fork my king and queen. You're not. That would be an illegal move, in fact. So, wow.
Well,
Okay. Again, you're right, Maurice. I can't recall offhand, but I'm sure it's happened. That just. Something egregious where you're just so far down in material. Just so far down.
It's
in
got to be.
material.
This is a rare sighting.
Very rare.
Especially at this level. This is a rare sighting. It's a rare sighting at any tournament level, let's say master play and above. But this is this is something.
2800s? Yeah.
You can almost put this in a book. This just doesn't happen. Strong players give up. They realize this is hopeless. You could keep playing, and a lot of youngsters out there might say, "I've seen it happen in my tournament.
Brilliant
And I
scholastic
won
chess
the
career.
game. I ended up winning. Why does
My
he have
opponent had
109?
6 queens.
That's
Two.
right. That's right. My opponent had a ton of queens, and I got a draw.
Because of the
and,
stalemate.
Yeah, I
Right,
understand.
I know,
That
I
happened
know.
to us too back in the day.
Right.
But not at this level. At this level, they know this is a squashing, a beatdown. We consider it respectful, that you don't continue to play in a dead loss, completely ridiculous position. So is this disrespectful? Would we go that far as to say this is somewhat disrespectful that Fabi's doing this?
When you get to this stage of your career where you're in the tournament of your life, and you're coming in with big dreams, I'm not going to say what is the right thing for you to do. I mean, you're the one who has to live with yourself, and obviously,
It's some psychology.
Fabian,
He knows himself best.
He's saying, I still think I've got one shot. I'm looking for one trick.
Let me ask you this question.
Please.
What do you think Garry Kasparov thinks right now?
Gary would have set thrown in the towel long ago.
And what is he thinking right now that the game is continuing? Do you feel like the gods of chess
kind
Gary
of
certainly
feeling
won
some
Olympus.
insulting is
Do you
going
think
on.
he's thinking like, seriously, dude, don't do this?
Yeah, don't do
Is
this.
this marring the game in some way? I know it's. I don't want to make
tip your hat, respect your opponent. You know, he did a good job. Come back.
Come back next time.
That's right.
But continuing to play does feel
A little bit insulting.
Yeah. At this point, yes.
because I think for us, if I had a student, or usually you would say, let's say my student is down a couple of queens against a good master player,
Right.
and they come in and say, you know what, the right thing to do is to stop. That's just. Now, that's what's happened over time. Now, maybe it's not exactly the right thing to do, but it's what we consider the proper etiquette, if you will.
It's interesting that we're having this discussion because a couple of years ago there was another type of discussion, which was a discussion that encourages grandmasters to play till the very bitter end. Like
To
there
mate,
was
to actually checkmate on the board.
You weren't allowed to resign. You just had to get checkmated. Those arguments, right? And I was like, no, man. When you're lost, just let the guy give it up. I mean,
No, I saw. I think there was some event where it was.
You actually have to play.
You have to play. They did
to
not allow you to
stalemate
it was for
or
the,
checkmate.
They said it was for the fans.
Okay, exactly. That's
That-
what we're talking about.
And the grandmasters were like completely annoyed because they were down a rook.
And they have to play the checkmate.
And what they did was they just bring the king out.
And just say, this is my...
I just want to get checkmated so I can end the game. So it didn't make any sense.
An honorable death.
An honorable death, yes.
Yes, what's interesting here, I know that argument, and there's some part of the argument that I do sympathize with. If you have fans who don't know anything about chess, it's satisfying to see checkmate. After all, that is the end of the game. That's the conclusion. We get that. This kind of reminds me of a basketball game where there's 1 minute left.
Right.
One team is down 30 points.
Right.
And they're still going at it.
With their first team?
No, their first team is not playing.
Right.
But they have
foul,
to play.
they stop the
they
clock.
have to play. They can't stop the game. So it's 30 points. There's a minute left.
Right.
And what normally happens in that case?
You bring in all the reserves.
And then you just bounce the ball. And they don't do anything.
But what's happening in the stands?
People are leaving.
The fans are getting out.
We're
They're
done.
actually not interested.
We're done.
The fans are savvy enough to know this one's done. We out. Right? So yeah, you wanted to play the mate, but their fans are going,
No.
This one's over. I got other things to do.
Right.
So there's two sides to that story.
Right.
It's not always that the fans necessarily want to see mate. They're savvy enough to know this is a beat down. We understand throwing in the towel. We understand when the referee says, I'm pulling these boxers apart.
Right.
All right. We're not waiting until the guy's bleeding profusely and has a brain injury and all that. We're stopping this one. Right. So this one is at that level right now. And it's also taking a lot of time to do. Dinglerin is stopping, looking, thinking about moves. Now, again, the miracle of the odds, you roll the dice 100,000 times. There's that one time that somehow he messes up. It's possible. It's possible. Probably even then people say, yeah, that was messed up the way you won that game, man. That's really messed up. You waited until the guy actually, was walking out, and it did happen that he tripped and fell and smashed his face.
Yeah,
was
on
too
the way to the
disoriented
bathroom.
to continue. That's kind of messed up.
Right.
I mean, that's what we have now. I mean, this is clearly over.
Well, again, let's remind everybody that tomorrow we have a free day, but for round 4, what's the pairings?
We're back in action, and it's going to be an exciting weekend. Fabiano Caruana, coming from a loss, will be playing against Jan Nepomniachtchi, one of the leaders.
Yep.
Wang Hao, who's one of the leaders himself, will be white against the lowest rated player, Kirill Alexeyenko. An excellent opportunity for him to at least put some pressure on the young Russian.
Right.
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave will be playing with white, again, one of the leaders, against Alexander Grischuk.
Talk about a veteran matchup. They
Veteran
know
matchup. They know
each other very
so well.
Yep.
And Dinglerin versus Anish Giri, two of the more solid players. But remember that Dinglerin did beat Anish Giri in the Grand Chess Tour, the classical format last year with the black pieces. So reigniting Dinglerin again with white. This is going to be his third white out of 4 games.
Right.
Somebody has to start like that.
Exactly.
And he's going to be facing against the Dutchman.
Looks like nice rivalries.
It's a nice rivalries, yes.
Round 4. And that MVL Grischuk match most especially. Fabi versus Jan, can he bounce back?
Can he bounce back? That's always a topsy-turvy one. We'll take a very short break while we wait for this game to finish. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
you hear it, it's the sound of hope and health and strength. It's the sound of compassion, of open doors, where people and machines are in tune and miracles occur. It's the sound of personalized healthcare and active communities. It sounds like life, and it's what you hear when you really listen.
Be surprised. Be intrigued. Be delighted. The World Chess Hall of Fame in St. Louis is nothing you'd expect and everything you love. 3 galleries highlight the history, culture, and creativity behind the game. Explore chess in ways you never imagined. It's a one-of-a-kind cultural institution where rare artifacts and world-class art play together. The World Chess Hall of Fame. Mind, art, experience.
St. Louis University is celebrating its 200th anniversary. Offering world-class education in the heart of St. Louis, SLU attracts students and professors from around the globe. In 2015, SLU partnered with the St. Louis Chess Club to start a top-tier collegiate chess team. On the very first year of the team's inception, SLU obtained second-best university at the Pan American Intercollegiate Chess Championships. Higher purpose, greater good. St. Louis University. And welcome back. We finally have the result we were expecting as Ding Liren has defeated Fabiano Caruana. And let's see the standings after round 3. It's MVL, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Wang Hao tied for the lead with 2 points. And only half a point behind, it's Fabiano Caruana and Alexander Grischuk with 50%, 1.5 points each. Anish Giri, Kirill Alexenko, and Ding Liren by no means out of it. Only 1 point behind the leaders, but they are tied for last with 1 point. A much closer tournament than what we were expecting.
And a very, very relieved Ding Liren. He
Absolutely.
faced a lot of prep today, but he came back. He held it together. It was a remarkable victory by Ding Liren.
Absolutely. Maurice, tell me your thoughts.
Your
of
final
today.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, simply amazing, stalwart defensive play by Ding Liren.
True.
He got out-prepped. That was obvious. Some of the most magnificent preparation we've seen in such a long time. Absolutely incredible the way Fabi started the game. He had to somehow stay in it. And he managed to keep his head, keep his equanimity, and maintain his composure. And when his opponent started playing, frankly, some waffle moves, a little h6 move here, a move that looked good, a little queen b6, queen e3, he said, yeah, you could keep on doing those things, but you still got to prove compensation. And he was not able to, and that allowed Ding Liren to come back, take over the game, and win like a boss. I got to give him his kudos. Absolutely was a fantastic performance on his part. And there are missed opportunities elsewhere, so what you going to do? This is the candidates, after all. Mistakes are going to get made. I think the score is pretty reflective of the play so far. I don't think you'd expect a lot more separation. You might expect Alexenko to might have lost another game, but the fact that he's where he is at -1, that seems normal enough for a strong player of his caliber. So I think the tournament as numbers, that makes sense. Maybe not the players we expected. We might have expected Fabi to be a +1, a Ding Liren to be a +1. This way of getting to this score, this standings, I should say, that has been quite surprising.
Thank you, Maurice. Fair results, but what a result today. I mean, this was an amazing game.
And it was needed. It was needed for the tournament for Ding Liren.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't see him coming back. Even a draw was tough.
Right.
But
-2.
a loss would just be
back the
end.
bags, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a great result. Tournament wide open. Just rest day tomorrow, guys. Don't tune in. But the day after, join us here because we have fantastic games for you. It's been a pleasure commentating with you guys today. But
as always, Alejandro, Maurice, thank you everybody for joining us.
Yes.
We will see you not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow on Saturday. Thank you. Goodbye.